Well, welcome to the joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen and the Warrant and Finance Committee. This is a meeting to go over the town budget one by one with each department head. It is a meeting for these two committees to meet with the department heads, excuse me. There's no audience participation in this one today, so we have a very tight schedule. Jennifer set this up for us, and with that, we'll start with the transfer station. Welcome.
Yeah, Bob.
Can I interrupt you, Bob, before you start?
You may.
Inside your books, inside the front flap, there's a packet, and it has a budget summary on it, and each page after that has line item budgeting. The transfer station is probably halfway through that packet if you want to follow along with what Bob has requested for a budget.
Am I good to go?
So let's get everybody on the same page, because this generally happens. They're starting on what page, Michelle? Let's see, 1, 2, transfer
Is this the new packet that you,
Everybody's books are up to date. Michelle fixed them all yesterday.
Transfer station. Oh, yeah. About halfway through. Yeah, one page.
All right, so transfers, the pages aren't numbered, unfortunately, but the transfer station, it starts its own page. It says 105, 501, 01. The first line should say transfer station at the top. You want to just look up or make eye contact so we know you're there before we let Bob start? Good? Good? Just for a second,
go down
Bob.
to 105, item. You're getting close.
Good, thank you.
Well, where's use this one here. Yep. Yep.
Orders the way down.
All right, we got two more. Michelle's coming over. Arnie, Dennis, to give you a hand.
Yeah, they're in order.
Got it? Got it. Alicia, good? Yeah. Okay.
Nope. That it right there?
You good, Arnie? Yeah. You got it?
The way I'm dealing with this, we might have to not get done till 3.
You drinking coffee?
Okay, so we're all at the top. Everybody good? Transfer station, department head. Take it away, Bob.
Okay. Well, there wasn't too much change in the budget from last year, except for the wages, and the reason the wages went up like they did is because nobody's had a merit raise at the transfer station, and, well, I've been there 8 years. And then the other increase is the $900 one for MSW was just an increase because of the, they go up by $1 a year at Pine Tree for our tonnage. If anybody has any questions?
There hasn't been any raises at all?
Yeah, it's been a 1.5 or 2% raise, but never a merit raise for anybody.
And the other piece is with the with the minimum wage that's going up. Minimum wage that's going up. So the transfer station department is definitely, they were looking at all the departments town-wide, they were the one department that was really affected by minimum wage. These guys needed to be moved up to get them, at a good amount above minimum wage.
Which puts their hourly rate at what's proposed?
Running around $14 an
Yeah,
hour,
sure.
depending on your longevity.
I thought I had a copy of that in here, but I guess I don't. But yeah, it's right around $14 an hour.
Minimum wage is going up to 12?
Yes.
And the other one was the department head. You see the increase, the Board of Selectmen made that increase, not Bob, based on all of the other department heads in town, what they were doing, what their responsibilities were, and longevity. So he was also due an increase.
Bob, we had talked briefly a while ago about opening that lower road up
Correct.
for the summertime. Did you get a chance to look at that?
No, I was gonna wait till the snow was gone, and then I'll get somebody in there to take a look at it and see what it would take to bring it up to whether it would be usable or not.
Right.
And there's quite a banking down there too, so, it's, if they did something with the road, probably gonna involve guardrails and stuff like that because of insurance purposes.
I mean, if it's something we could do for short money,
Right.
it would save the lines out on the H Road. In the summertime.
Yeah, for the July lines, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I'll, as soon as the snow's gone, Dennis, I'll look into it for you.
And
I'll let
maybe
you know.
you can talk to somebody, maybe David Langley or somebody.
Right, one of the road commissioners or something like that.
And see what estimated cost would be to do that, if it's worth our while or whether it isn't. You know, if you can do it for a few $1,000, it's worth a while.
Right.
It's gonna be 100,000, I'd say forget it.
Yeah, exactly,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, I'll let you know.
Anyone else have any questions for Bob?
Did you get that area repaired where the compactor is?
No, they're gonna, as soon as the weather breaks and it warms up, they're gonna come out and tear that up and fix it properly so there's no puddle there for people to step into. Yeah.
We certainly don't want anybody falling down through.
No, or getting their feet wet.
Well, I don't know about getting that. That's a mind revolution.
Were you talking the steel area, or were you talking the hot
No,
top?
I was talking to Steve.
The steel area?
There's a section over there by the cement pad, by the compactor, that, when they did it, they made a pool, so the water settles in it. So they're gonna come grind it out and
Yeah, I think you're
fix it
talking, I think you're
properly.
talking about two different things. You're
I don't
talking
think so.
about a steel, Roland, you're talking about the area where the steel plate is?
Right,
So you're talking a steel repair,
right. That got repaired?
The steel repair.
just outside the door to the office?
Outside the door.
Yeah, that did get repaired, I think, didn't it?
Oh, the decking, you mean, for the, where the compactor is? Yeah, we replaced that decking last year.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Anyone else for Bob?
I'd like to aggravate him some, but I can't think of it.
So on that
Thank you,
note,
Dennis, I appreciate that.
Okay,
9:14, good timing.
yeah, so, thank you,
Okay, can I
Bob.
leave?
You can leave, thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a
Don't
good day,
forget to buy
guys.
your Girl Scout cookies today while they're up there.
Thanks. Okay, next is APAT, cable.
And that's Department 111. It's, third page from the end.
If you kept your papers in order, they should just flip one or two and it should be right there.
111.
They will be numbered as the budget gets finalized. Yesterday was a lot of changes going on, so I did away with the numbers so that I didn't have to reprint every page.
Okay, is everybody on board with the right page?
Go ahead, I'll catch
Okay,
up.
yep. Go ahead, Mike.
So APAT's budget is nearly 1%, is nearly a 1% decrease from last year. Over the past 2 years, we signed a new contract with the franchise agreement, dropping it from 5% to 4.5%. My estimation on the amount of money we'll get in revenue from that is, I think it's wrong in my calculations, so there may be a $7,000 amount going into the general fund next year. So line by line, salary and wages. It's pretty straightforward. We got a faster internet connection the other day for less money, so we made a cut there. We're doing away with a phone line because I never get a phone calls on that. So yeah, all in all, we're at a 1%, nearly a 1% decrease in the overall budget.
Are you comfortable with the equipment decrease? I guess when I look at that, we haven't really talked about your budget, but that worries me as things change and break throughout the year. You're
There
certain you
isn't
can,
much wiggle room.
everything's been replaced and ready to go?
Yeah, we got new cameras, the computer's stable. I've got redundancy in my redundancy.
Okay.
In my backup of the video archives. But there isn't a lot of wiggle room on the budget unless there is another $7,000 in the revenue that comes in that I miscalculated. So there isn't much room to play with as far as maintenance.
So essentially, you had to cut it to stay within the, I see what you're saying. And what about downstairs? We had kind of emailed back and forth about getting better sound system for the planning board meetings. We feel like that was just more rearranging what we have as far as equipment.
And it's also the room itself. That is a small room and the audio bounces like crazy off the walls. So it's just a matter of finagling the audio on the production process to make it sound clear and crisp. But I have looked at, we have the audio equipment now, but it's kind of a lot of cables and wiring, and people are tripping over it in that small little room and space. So I have been looking at other solutions that is less stuff to set up and get in the way for potential audio increase. Yes.
I have just a question on you get voted, the town votes, last year they voted 544,000 for your budget, which is basically the same. And then you get revenue from the franchise fee. That was 41,435. Where does all this money go? That's
It goes
75,000.
back into the general fund to offset taxes, from my understanding.
Why do we want to collect money and then offset taxes? I have a dog, and if I pay $60 a year for this, and everybody, there's a lot of people that get it for free. So then I just don't think it's equitable that the people that have MetroCast pay the 4.5% that's now reduced to, and the other people get it for free.
So that's a question more for the selectmen, because as they negotiated the contract, I think what I hear you saying is maybe they should consider going down a little less on the contracts. That, Mike doesn't have any control of that, but the board does, as far as,
Why have a fee at all?
The fee is what comes up with the money to pay Mike.
Yeah.
No, you appropriate $34,434. That's for the budget.
Right.
Right.
The money that MetroCast gives us goes into the general fund, but in a way, 34,000 of that money that they give us comes out and goes to pay him. If we didn't get the money from MetroCast, we'd have to do this off taxation.
Well, you do, I don't, aren't you getting money now, $34,000 from the town meeting?
no. Well, yes and no. So think of it this way. So we get a check from MetroCast for 41,000 at the beginning, let's just say the beginning of the year. So that 41,000 goes into an account. He's allowed to, his budget is supposed to be that 41,000, so it ends up being a wash. So we're not raising the 34,000 and taking the money in. The idea behind it is that only the people that have cable, like you and I, that pay the franchise fee are supposed to have the benefits of Channel 26. And because he puts everything on YouTube, and this has been a conversation before, a lot of the people are getting it for free, if you will. So there's been talk about not putting it on YouTube so that you can only see it on Channel 26, so that since you're paying the revenues and let's say Carol's not, that only you can see it. Do you know what I mean? But the money that for his budget is the exact amount that comes in. So we're not raising it and taking it. In some cases, there's a difference, which is what he's talking about now, the 7,000.
So I just want to clarify for Mr. Murray. So the warrant article will say raise and appropriate. However, in one of the last warrant articles, we use anticipated revenues to offset the tax at commitment time. So that money that comes in from the franchise fees, it reduces the amount that we actually tax the people. So it is washing out there. Whether it's fair that you as a MetroCast subscriber is paying and not everybody else in the town is, yeah, that's definitely, a conversation to have with the board.
When this was originally set up, we got X amount of dollars, like you said, Mike, you're getting 41,000, you did last year or whatever. That money, for several years anyway, was carried over in that account. And the reason for that was to build the TV station, to cover all the, not all, but as many as you could anyway, events that went on in the town. there'd be more money there to pay people to film events, like, say, recreation events, school games, or rec games, a Pride Day, if you will, the fair. And we need to, like they said, do something different downstairs, because other than me, lots of times on the meetings, you can't hear what anybody's saying. So that's a real issue to me. Because most people don't want to just hear me talk, and they like to hear what somebody else has to say. So I'm gonna ask the selectmen to stop doing what they started doing, rolling that over into the undesignated fund balance, because the purpose of what these people are paying, like Arnie was talking, is to maintain and build the station to the best of our ability to serve the community. And that's a purpose, as far as I'm concerned, that we're being charged a fee for. And I don't think it's fair, especially to the people that are paying the fee, to add it into our tax dollar account.
And I think that would be a very fair thing to do if you took it off YouTube, because I think that small amount of money that's left over, at least it, you know, it offsets the taxes, because I don't think they can change the percentage at this point in the middle of the contract with, you know, let's just say we decided that 30,000 or 34,000 was enough. I don't think we can renegotiate with Atlantic Broadband at this point and have them lower the amount to maybe 3.5% or 4%, so that we're collecting less from each cable person. But if it's all gonna be pointed towards that account and reused there, then you're gonna have to think about the other concerns that people have had about taking it off YouTube, because they feel like, you know, they're paying for the service, so that it only can be on channel 26, and nobody else should be able to see it because they're not paying those fees.
So how do other taxpayers get to see the meetings that happen?
By YouTube, because it's on the internet. Because they can go
No,
through.
if you take it off YouTube.
Oh, they don't, but then they can sign up to cable and pay the fee like Arnie does and watch it on channel 26.
MetroCast doesn't come to my house.
I'm just telling you what the argument is.
Can I just, I'm really, when I found out that the cable money wasn't earmarked for the cable station anymore, I was very upset by that, because it, you know, the taxpayer, you know, the subscribers are paying that money, and it should be used for the cable, you know, and for the services that they're paying for, not to offset taxes. There is a lot of room for growth in the cable station, always. You know, always. There's always stuff going on. There's always things you can add and expand. And I don't think that the PEG station was ever intended to help offset taxes for the town of Acton. And the YouTube thing, as much as I understand that it's a little unfair to the subscribers, all television channels, you can find things on the internet to watch. You know, newspapers, you can read the articles online and not buy the newspaper. Magazines, it's just the world we live in. And I do think it would be a disservice to take them off YouTube.
Yeah, a lot of, well said, a lot of town offices broadcast their meetings on YouTube. That's where I got the idea to transition to the YouTube service. So I agree, it would be a disservice, I think, to the public.
Oh, and I agree too. I'm just telling you what comes to me when I hear. It's not my opinion.
But I also agree that, yeah, the fact that only the MetroCast clients or customers are, you know, paying the bill towards it. I do agree.
On the YouTube page, you can become a subscriber. What is a subscriber? And does YouTube have a way to disseminate the data? I started putting a spreadsheet together over a year ago so you can run some pivot tables on how much we're watching it and how long the meetings are. And roughly, there was, as I remember, it was 1,000 views of 250 selectmen's meetings and only roughly 1,000 views. That comes out to like 4 views per selectmen's meeting.
Yeah, there's analytics,
Or from YouTube?
yeah, on the YouTube interface, there are analytics to see how many views you have, subscribers. Subscribing to a YouTube channel means that you will be notified, or the meeting will be on your page on YouTube because you are a subscriber. That's the point of subscribing.
So they're taking your IP address when you sign up as a subscriber?
When you're on the internet, your IP address is always being monitored, so. But when you're a subscriber, what they're doing is that your email address is being monitored. So you go to YouTube, you're logged into YouTube with your email address, YouTube knows who you are, knows what you're subscribed to, and they'll send you the videos that you are subscribed to. That's what the subscription's about.
But I mean, if I just click on the Acton webpage and click on the APAT channel, that just takes me to YouTube, and then YouTube is getting my email address off of that?
You have to log into it. You have to physically log into YouTube.
You have to subscribe.
You have to create a YouTube account using your email address. And then you subscribe to a channel. But yeah, you click on the APAT link, it brings you to the APAT channel on YouTube where you can subscribe, and you'll be notified, and you'll have the videos come to you when you visit YouTube when you're logged in. That's the purpose of it.
One of the things that I would like to see is for the cable department, for APAT to take all their money that they're given from the subscribers, not give anything back to the town, and maybe hire an additional person that could focus on the non-municipal stuff, because it's not just the government channel, right? There's 3 parts to PEG.
Yeah, and we do. We cover school sports, we cover the variety show, the talent show, we cover the winter concerts, the spring concerts, we cover the veteran, a lot of veteran things. Virginia covers those.
Library events.
Library events, so we do cover everything. It's a small town, there isn't a ton of things going on, like the party at the pond, we cover that occasionally. So we do try to get out there and cover different events besides public meetings.
But if you had another, the other $10,000, you don't think you could expand it more? Like what you cover?
You're limited to the events that are happening and that we're aware of, so.
Well, one example that I would use is a rec department. There wasn't anything filmed to go on TV.
Yeah, because.
Gotta ask.
Yeah, I don't have a schedule for
Yeah,
rec.
and that's the other thing. And not saying rec, but in general, if you know of any events going on around here, you've got to notify him, because he would, he would have no way of knowing what the rec schedule was unless one of us told him.
Okay.
Now,
Go ahead.
2 points, but years ago, I was actually on the cable committee, and at one point, we were talking about, like, paying, say, there was somebody that was, I think, located in Rochester, and he was like a puppeteer, and you could pay him like 1 day out of the month to come and do a show, then you film it, and you can film that throughout the month, so that there were kid shows, and we were discussing trying to expand different opportunities that we could show the people or the cable people who had this. And so that would be one way of spending money, like paying for a puppeteer and making a show out of that, or paying for something else that would interest the community. So I think that's what Carol was trying to say, that extra money could be used to create a show or something like that. Is that what you were discussing?
Yeah, I guess a lot of it is on the community to come forward and say, hey, I want you to do, a series on the watershed and, the lakes or the, boat parade, whatever, I guess it is on the community to let you know what they want, right?
And when I originally started, we do the Acton Fair every year as well. I forgot his name. He does the entertainment tent. I had him come to the school a couple times to do a few performances back in like 2012, 2011. So I have attempted to do that, but keeping that rolling, keeping those people, part of the APAT's, regular schedule is difficult, because a lot of times they back out, or they're not interested in doing that anymore. But yeah, I see your point. If we, have that extra funding, there may be some talent in the area. We could have,
Or interests, like she was talking about the watershed.
Is the board willing, to have that conversation if I put it on the agenda Tuesday? Because I'm sure Mike would roll it back over into a reserve account, but it's a decision the board has to make, so when we
Yeah,
put
we
it on
can
the
talk about
agenda
it.
for
And I think-
Tuesday, I'll
Yeah,
get
and I
some
think
thoughts
that's the
from
next step,
Michelle.
is to take it to the selectmen's meeting. We're getting tight on time here. So, yeah, definitely put it on and we can
We'll
discuss
talk about it on Tuesday.
Yeah, a little bit of history on when it changed. It was not Mike's decision to have it roll into the undesignated fund. It's actually a decision that the board made at the request of the Warrant and Finance Committee at the time. It wasn't a major concern of the board. The board at the time, I believe there were some members that, said, hey, if we have that extra money, it would be nice to offset taxes.
I think there was
The purpose of the revenues, I agree with Carol, the purpose of the revenue is to fund the activity.
And I'm sure Michael will spend it.
Yeah, I think at the,
Sort things out and.
yeah, I think at the time that it was changed, it was starting to get a substantial amount of money
Right.
built up. I mean, we're talking like 20 grand or something. There was a lot of money that was sitting in there, that everything was up and running, everything was going. There was no real need for it. I think I was right new to the board, I think, when that happened.
Yes,
So,
it's
yeah.
been quite a few years. So.
Yeah, oh, yeah, it's
So we're
been-
looking at $5,000 to $7,000, so.
Yeah.
Either in the next week or two, I'll get it on the agenda after talking to Mike
Yep.
and Michelle, and.
Yep.
we'll-
The other thing I want to ask Mike, has there been any outreach to the high school students for volunteer time, or maybe, because I know they have a certain amount of community service they need to do, or even being paid, to do some of the filming, because I was just wondering if any of that's being done at all, or is there any intention of it?
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was a year or two ago, I did reach out to the high school, and at that time, nobody stepped forward. I can make another attempt at it. Now that they have the new high school built, they have like a lot of great facilities there. Potential for maybe, the video production crew over there to put together something.
Oh, yeah, they got quite a thing working down there with the video.
Yeah, they have green screens and a lot of good equipment. So that's a possibility too. Maybe I can reach out to the teacher or the group over there.
Okay, we've got to move on here.
Thank you.
So,
We're good with the budget?
I'm all set.
Yep.
Anyone else is all set?
Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue this in conversation at either the next or the following selectmen's meeting.
Let me know if you need me to.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll gather some information from both of you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the fire department. That's going to be, 104? Where is that fire?
They are here, I saw them walk up the walkway.
Sure. Well, it gives a minute to get everybody up the right page. Near the front of the book, maybe 4 or 5 pages in. Or your list.
Good morning, everybody. Are we ready, or for me, or?
Trying to find our page, give us just a
Everybody on the
second.
right page here, and we'll be ready to go.
Story of my life. I'm always on the wrong page.
Everybody all set on the page?
No.
The leading numbers is 104. What's that? Okay, good.
All right, so just start with a general overview of what I'm looking for? Okay. So this year, I had submitted on the operational side of the budget, 4.3% increase. Also included in that 4.3% increase is a 1.3% cost increase of the benefits, insurance stuff, things like that. So the operational side was minus the benefits is actually only about a 3% increase. But overall, that would put it at 4.3 with the benefits. The other thing that we added into the budget this year for a couple reasons, which equals about 2.1%, is a salary increase for the per diem employees, well, really all the employees, because minimum wage is going up $1 an hour again this year. And because of that, it's going to, I think, 12 an hour this year. our juniors, our support members that don't have any certifications would all be at that 12 an hour. And what it did is it closed the gap to what our EMTs, firefighters, and all these people are making. And kind of, if you're going to increase that end, you really need to increase the other end. And the other issue that we were facing with the salaries is that we currently pay our paramedics $18 an hour. All the area departments, Lebanon's paying their medics $21 an hour, Wells is at $20 an hour. All the other, like a lot of the per diem departments are paying $20 plus an hour now on their paramedics. And I don't want to start losing paramedics that work part-time for us to other departments that pay more. So the increase in their salary as well is also to try to keep comparable with what the area departments are doing so that we can maintain the staff we have. We've got great medics working for us, and we certainly don't want to lose that. So overall, between the 3% on the operations side, the 1.3% on the benefits, and the salary increase, you're looking at an overall of a 6.4% increase.
So are all of the per diem, so everybody's getting just a flat $1 raise?
Yes, everybody's getting just a flat $1 an hour raise. And keep in mind, in the 3 years I've been here, per diems have not had a raise in the time I've been here. I don't know when the salaries were increased prior to that, so this would be the first raise.
Right.
This would be the first raise that they've had in my time as chief, so. On the capital side, as you can see also, I highlighted the different lines that had increases, and a lot of that, the way I moved the monies around in the increases was just, those are where we're seeing increased costs and where the things are kind of running a little tight and we're just being watchful of, but we moved the money around to the areas that looked like they were going to see more increased costs over the next year as well, based on call volume and things of that nature. On the capital side, so the first thing I had on my list, let me see if I can pull out my receipt here, if I can find it, was for hose. So I put in a line item of $10,000 to replace hose and appliances, such as nozzles, adapters, things like that. Since 2015, we have lost 8 lengths of 1 3/4 hose, 2 lengths of 2.5 inch hose, 7 lengths, which is 700 feet of 4 inch hose, and 9 lengths, 900 feet of 5 inch hose. Through testing, through emergency incidents, fires, etc., these hoses have failed. As far as I know, the only new hose that Acton Fire has bought is, they bought a few lengths of 1 3/4 when they bought engine 2 in 2012. All our large diameter hose, the 4 inch, 5 inch, and things like that, have all been hand-me-downs from other departments that, as they bought new hose, their hose wasn't in horrible shape, but we use it, but the result is we have hose that's 20, 25 years old and is beginning to fail more frequently. So there's standards, we talk about NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, the national standards that tell you what you're supposed to have for hose on vehicles. For instance, you're required to have at least 800 feet of supply hose on a truck and at least 400 feet of the hand lines, 1 3/4 and 2.5. 2 of my 3 engines have less than that 800 feet. Engine 1 only has 700 feet of 5 inch, and the tanker only has 500 feet of 5 inch. So the plan with that hose is that the hose would be combined from the tanker onto engine 1. If this goes through and we replace the hose, which would bring engine 1's total up to 1,200 feet, which would be above the minimum, but also realistic because of the long hose lays we have when we have fires, because we're in a rural setting. And then I would put 1,000 feet of hose on the tanker which would, 1,000 feet to start off with for this year would be a good starting point. It's not excessive and it meets the standards. And at this point also with like our 1 3/4 and our 2.5 inch, which are the hand lines we use, the trucks all have all their storage racks filled on the trucks themselves for the cross lays and things like that. But we have pretty much nothing in store to replace them with. most times, like proper care, if you come back from a fire, you wash it, clean it, let it dry. Well, we don't even have that option. We can wash it, clean it, but then it has to go back on the trucks because we don't have stuff to replace it with. So I would look to catch up on that at least as well. Put new stuff in service and then use the stuff that's on the trucks now to have as replacement hose and backup hose. And all our nozzles and things like that, if there's anything left once we replace some of the hose, we'd be looking at replacing some nozzles because our nozzles are all very old as well. And we're just trying to bring things up to date as we go, but that's what that 10,000 is for, is to bring us back up to standard on our hose lays. Not to mention the fact that, yeah, it's a safety issue. If you can't lay in the right amount of supply line to get to a fire, the chances of saving the structure, affecting rescues, things like that, are dramatically decreased because of the fact that you can't supply the water to attack the fire. So that's what I'm looking for on that. Any questions on that so far? Okey dokey.
Yeah,
Actually, I do have,
Go ahead.
Sure.
that $10,000, that's for all the hoses, or is it a portion of the hoses?
That would get me the 1,000 feet for the truck as well as replacing some of the handline stuff. The 4-inch hose per length goes about $450 per length, and I'd be buying 10 of them. So just on getting that alone, you're gonna eat up quite a bit of that. And then you're talking the handline stuff, you're talking about $100 to $150 per length on the handline stuff. So when you start doing it, it eats that money up really fast. But it would at least get us into a lot better place than we're at right now to get us through until we can start.
So would it bring you up to the standard?
Yes, that would allow us to
So you're
meet the standard.
replacing all the old hoses and putting in the new one?
It's replacing the hose that's already failed. It's not replacing any of the hose that's on the large diameter hose, the stuff that we don't meet the minimum on, it would replace the ones that have failed on that. And then the hose for the hand lines that we're buying would also be replacing hose that's on the truck now, but that stuff would go to backup hose. Typically, your hand lines aren't supposed, have about a 10-year life expectancy on them, per standard, but obviously we test them every year. We have them professionally tested to make sure that we can stay compliant. So, so there's a little room for wiggle room there. But by this, the $10,000 will bring us up to being able to meet the actual standards again for our apparatus as far as the amount of hose on the trucks. Which again, that also all affects things like your ISO rating and things like that. So, because you're required to have trucks that are NFPA compliant, and you're required to be able to supply so much water, on arrival and things like that. So you kind of have to be compliant with standard, or you're going to run into issues there as well.
Do you typically try to, I know like with larger corporations, hospitals, stuff like that, as far as like, say their technology products that they need, they try to do 25% each year so that in 4 years, everybody gets a new computer or a laptop or something,
Right.
but they do 25% a year. Is that something that you could do with the hoses?
Unfortunately, we're at a point where we don't even comply with standard. This is just a minimum to bring us up to standard. I've recommended and I've always thought that we should establish a fund, a capital line every year specific to, say it was every year you put $5,000 into a hose fund that would, every so often be able to replace this hose. I'm a big proponent of forward planning when it comes to stuff like that, such as the apparatus replacement funds. We'll get into that one in a minute too. But if you do that and you can count on this every year, you don't get hit one year with the chief coming and saying, I need $10,000 for hose or $20,000 for this. And it has less of an impact in 1 year on 1 year if you spread it out over years. I mean, that would be the best, that would be the best way to go.
Right, but in all fairness too, between the new fire truck purchase, the new ambulance
Right.
purchase, the trailer purchase, there have been, the town of Acton definitely puts money aside
Oh,
for
yeah, no.
fire every year, and there's
Yep.
been pretty much a new purchase every year, if
Correct.
not couple, brand new big purchases, so.
Yeah, no,
10,000 is
absolutely.
really a small hit this year, so.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
The two things,
Sure.
do you have a maintenance plan schedule,
As far as for the hose and stuff like that?
fire department?
Oh, yeah, we do, I mean, every aspect of the department has maintenance is in place, from the SCBA, turnout gear, the trucks, the building.
How far out is the maintenance plan that you're looking at? This would be part of your maintenance plan, replacing hoses and stuff.
Well, the maintenance plan just takes care of like the annual type testing and things like that. As far as replacement, that's usually set up as a separate capital type fund, because your daily operating stuff would be separate than like, the hose replacement. Typically, we would just come forward and say, this is, what we're looking at down the road. I don't know if you guys remember last year, I gave like a 20-year apparatus replacement program of what was going to need replacement whenever, and hopefully establish funds to keep working towards that so that we don't get hit. But that doesn't, like replacing hose doesn't come out of the basic maintenance. If you had like a single hose failure, you had a nozzle fail or something like that, that would come out of the equipment repair fund. There is an equipment repair fund, but not
I appreciate that, but maintaining what you need.
Right,
And sometimes maintaining is replacing.
right.
And I would think that, and what I'd like to see is a plan so that you don't have to do this,
Right,
like Susan was saying. And I would like to see a extended maintenance plan, because there is a lot of money over there. We made a huge investment. And if we could see a maintenance plan, even for a year, what you're thinking you're gonna have to do, broken down, and along with a 5-year, capital improvement plan.
sure. No, I mean,
I'd like to see that.
yeah, I mean, I try to keep up on that and let know what we're gonna need for sure.
Yeah.
And I absolutely agree. I think there should be a revolving fund that addresses these issues,
What you could do under your maintenance plan. That's my interpretation.
No, that would have to be a separate fund. Your maintenance is
That's
your
your
basic
interpretation, this
Right.
is my interpretation.
Agree to disagree, sir. That's fine. I get what your point is, and I think we're all trying to accomplish the same thing, is we're all trying to accomplish the planning ahead of time so that we don't just get hit in one year with a big impact. And I absolutely agree. I think that would be the best direction to go, to address those issues. Absolutely.
So you
I was gonna say,
you can get that to us?
In the booklet, he has current vehicle inventory and apparatus replacement plan in your booklet.
Those are the big ticket items.
Right.
I think we're talking some of the smaller things that you have a plan where
To rotate
every
it.
10 years you want to have a new hose, right? So every year in 10 years, you're buying whatever.
20%.
Right, but you-
What's your plan on those
But,
things?
yeah, but the thing is, operational doesn't revolve over until the next year. And you're talking capital versus operational side. A capital fund you can set up, and that would be something that when you're gonna have to replace stuff, for instance, turnout gear, we know that in 9 years or so, we're gonna be looking at replacing more turnout gear.
Yeah.
Because that's when everything's gonna come due again, from the stuff that we
So
bought.
that's what we're asking for,
Right.
though, is that plan of, okay, this year, in 9 years, we're gonna have to replace turnout gear. In years 1 and 5, we're gonna do, 1,000 feet of hose or whatever.
Yeah, and that's why I'd love to see a fund set up specifically for those categories, so we can do that.
Yeah.
But it's like last year, even for instance, last year, towards the end of the year, with my equipment fund. The thing is, you always wait until you get towards the end of the year, to start making these types of purchases. Because in case something major breaks, you need to make sure you have a plan in case something major breaks. Last year, the equipment fund had some left over, and we upgraded, we'd lost a lot of hand tools, axes had broken, things like that. Some other appliances had broken that we replaced. So we are using that fund to do that as we're able to, as the end of the year comes around. Last year, we bought quite a few new hand tools and things like that. So we caught a lot of stuff up last year. This year, we're working on the hose, and if we have any room to move towards the end of this year, I'll try to see what I can knock off of that as well. So that is kind of part of the plan, but unfortunately, we're going to need to catch up on on, like with hose testing in August, which is when, after the new budget started, we lost 6 lengths of hose just in hose testing of the large diameter hose. So it's something that we try to plan for, but you also is an unforeseen what you're gonna lose that year.
That's why it's just a
Yeah,
plan.
I really believe in having capital line funds set up where a little's contributed every year. And yeah, you lay out what you're gonna need in 10 years. We know 9 years we're gonna need new turnout gear. I'd love to have a fund
Maybe
already
if you come
invested
up
in
with the
that.
plan, the fund will follow.
I sure hope so.
It-
I've tried that with the apparatus.
Yeah.
Also, a maintenance plan on the building,
On the building,
yes.
yeah, I tried, see, last year I tried to address that, as well. And unfortunately, with the other needs we'd had, it's tough because we had a lot of big item needs, right out of the gate. And it was hard trying to catch up with everything, and we're getting there. We've made a lot of progress. I know like last year I wanted to establish a fund of 5,000 to, that was gonna turn into a fund for emergency repairs on things like replace a furnace, things like that, and start addressing these items. I agree, we need better planning.
Well,
pre-planning.
exactly, and that's, to move forward and develop the support you need, which you've always had.
No, you guys have been great, and the town's been great for the fire
But
department.
in fairness to the taxpayers, we need to be able to lay out to the taxpayers, this is what we're looking
Yeah.
at.
Coming down the road.
No, you're gonna have surprises, you're gonna have some sort of
Absolutely.
things. But, for example, this last year when you bought that trailer, obviously you knew that was something you was gonna need.
Right.
And it should have been in writing somewhere so that people knew
But it was coming.
that it was coming.
Yep, absolutely, I get what you're saying. We can certainly start working on something for you.
Thank you.
Yep,
And
no
and
problem.
looking at these hourly wages that are going to increase.
Yep.
I understand about trying to keep up with the minimum wage increases. I think all of us in the corporate world are dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
Has there been any discussion on not implementing these increases until the minimum wage does go up on January 1st?
Yeah,
That would be like
that's typically what we do.
Okay, so this 16 or whatever $1,000, you're not gonna do the raises until January 1st, is that what you're saying?
I don't know, whenever it would kick in.
Well, the budget starts July 1st, but
The
that's.
budget would address it as it starts
Right,
July
but
1st.
that's a
right?
conversation he's gotta have with the Board of Selectmen at that time. I mean, the department heads generally, they either get a cost of living when the budget passes, or they can get increases at their, review time. But if he's looking at giving everybody a $1 increase, he's still gotta have that conversation with the board. So
Yeah.
there's no guarantee, you know what I mean, that it's gonna start July 1, or the board could say, based on the recommendations from the meeting, we want it to start January 1st, so
Because that would be like
that's not
half.
completely, just his decision, so.
I'm more concerned about all the paramedics that aren't getting what the area is getting them. So the sooner you can get them that raise, the better. Because we're already behind the 8 ball on that one.
What did you
And-
say, like Shapley and Newfield and Alfred are getting? Not Sanford and Wells, but smaller towns, what are they getting? for
Well,
paramedics?
Lebanon, for instance, is 21 an hour.
Yeah, how about like Shapley, Alfred?
I don't know what
Newfield?
Shapley's paying their
Shapley's
paramedics.
19.
19, yeah. So,
And you're looking to bring them to 18?
no, the medics are at 18 now. They would
Oh, so
go-
this is current?
Yeah, that's the
This isn't
current.
the 1920 proposed
Right,
rates?
right.
Right.
Where are those?
They would use $1 an hour on
$1
top
per
of
It's
it.
just $1 for everybody?
Yeah, yep.
You have 5 minutes left? Anything?
All right. So I'll go quick then. The SCBA, 50,224. Last year, we need to buy 17 SCBA to replace all the old ones. And last year, we funded to buy 9 of them, and that 50,000 reflects buying the additional 8 that we need.
And that brings those all up to
And
standard?
that brings them all up to standard. That'd be all our packs would be brand new and good for 15 years.
Steve, have you heard back on the grant proposal that you put in?
Nope, I have not. They haven't started awarding them yet, but I'm hoping soon. I was actually told we should start hearing by February, but I don't, with the government shutdown and all that stuff that happened, that kind of delayed a lot of things. So still waiting to hear on that. I did submit for a micro grant on that. My understanding through the grant, through FEMA and the AFG last year is we were right on the bubble. We were I hate to say it, we were a stone's throw, but we were like the first group cut off. So my grant writer thinks that we're pretty close this year. And micro grants stand a better chance than the grant that we'd filed for last year. It was too much money to file for a micro grant last year, but this year we're only filing for 8 of them. We could file for the micro grant. So I'm still fingers crossed, hoping on that one.
So Michelle, if the voters approve the $50,224 for the SCBA that he wanted, and he ends up getting a grant, where does that money go back?
Into the undesignated fund.
Can't spend it on any, the fire department can't spend it on anything else?
The way that the article was written last year and that we intended on writing it this year was that it was specifically, we've heard in the past that we didn't want something that was just a blanket.
So specific to that or back to the undesignated fund? So in case you got the grant, it would offset, it would go back into the undesignated fund. Good. The other one you had was what, the truck?
The apparatus replacement. So I submitted for $100,000 for the apparatus replacement fund. We were looking, if you look at the apparatus replacement schedule, we were looking to replace the tanker truck for FYI '21, so 2 budgets from now. What do we have in that fund, 111, something like
Just
that?
real quick, so it's the truck, see where it says truck capital improvement fund, that's what it is. So he's still in the same area, everybody's flipping pages, so the apparatus, you call it something a little different, so I wanna make sure that, so see that where it says truck capital improvement fund? Last year you budgeted 5,000, you put 5,000 aside.
Yeah.
Well, we put,
So every year, we've been trying to put monies into that fund, but unfortunately, with the other needs we had, we weren't able to put into what we want to. Every year, the cost of these vehicles is going up between 5 and 7%. And so we've got it budgeted to put in for FYI '21. And so I'd like to put 100,000 in. I really recommend that every year, $100,000 is put into that fund, whether you're buying a truck that year or not. If you do that and you look at the apparatus replacement fund that I've laid out with the estimated costs, you'll be in a lot better shape and not get hit with any major additional contributions to that when it comes time to purchase vehicles. I really think that would recommend putting $100,000 in every year so that down the road when we have to buy these apparatus, I think it's in 2027, 28, you're going to have to replace an ambulance one year and then an engine the next year. And if you stick with the plan, to plan for down the road, like we were talking about, when we know we have these things coming, if you stick with that plan, when these trucks are due for replacement, you're going to be in a lot better shape and not have to come looking for $300,000 and $400,000 to either be, financed or whatever.
What's in that fund right now?
I think it's 111, something like that.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it's like 111,000 right now.
And he does keep referring to his number, but when the selectmen met with the treasurer last week, they moved forward 20, what is it, 25?
25.
25,000 is what they're putting it at.
Yeah, and this would be a good time actually to have Michelle explain if this budget passes the way that it was proposed.
In here.
Or in here, the way you're looking at it right now. Michelle, just give us a quick rundown as to what the tax consequences will be.
Assuming that revenue sharing isn't hit hard by the new governor's budget, and based on the school budget passing as it's being presented, and the valuation of property staying right around where it is now, we're looking at, with the reductions that the board has made already, we're looking at a minimum of 13 cents on your tax rate.
And putting how much forward?
Putting $400,000 from undesignated fund forward, which is $100,000 more than we typically put in. The idea there is, you'll see later on when we meet with the roads, we're bringing their winter budget up to more what the winter budget actually is. It looks like a huge increase on their end, but it's not. So that, because every year when we're committing taxes, we're thinking about how much are we gonna have to save for the roads this year in undesignated fund to cover their overdrafts. This year, hopefully bringing up their budget to what the 5-year average is that's spent there, we'll have a better idea. When it comes time for tax commitment, we don't have to hold on to this extra $150,000 to budget for the winter overdraft. So $400,000 is the most that we've put up from undesignated fund. I think it's definitely doable, but even at that, we're looking at a 13 cent increase on the tax rate.
I guess and it's not in the operations, but, the cost of living this year, is 2.7%. And last year, I think, was 1.7. The year before was 0. And you're not, the fire department isn't unique. But I think, this year with a 6.5% increase in the budget, I'd like to see it go back and bring it down to more what, at least the senior citizens that are on fixed incomes, can afford.
And I think, not to speak on behalf of the board, but I mean, this is just the first time, presentation. I think there's a good chance, they just learned this morning about the 13 cents to 30 cent possible increase. Obviously, if we only move 300,000, you're looking at almost a 20 cents increase, so I expect the board's gonna go back and look at this budget, and try to find another 100,000, 50,000, somewhere in here to cut out of all the departments, not just his, mine included. So just keep, I think that they are gonna reevaluate that now that they've heard the numbers, but it's just hearing what the departments need for the first time and then putting all our heads together because it is a big increase.
The last 5 years on Social Security, the average increase was 1.3%. Last 5 years.
That's hard.
Right.
Yeah, especially if you didn't have a defined benefit plan, you depended on what you invested.
The hard thing is we're trying to balance what folks have coming in, we're trying to balance what the town needs going out, and a lot of times it doesn't equal, so.
Hey, I totally understand. Last year I didn't take a raise.
None of us did.
And my other, everybody knows I retired out in New Hampshire, the retirement system hasn't given a raise in years. I get that part of it. I
But
do.
the minimum wage keeps going up.
And the
so
minimum wage keeps going
We
up.
want to keep the employees that we have. We don't want the competition.
And on the federal level, there's a bill right now that's starting to go through that they're looking to try to get it raised to 15 an hour. And the effect that would have on the country is ridiculous.
Okay, good time for a quick restaurant break, Mr. Walsh?
Anything else for Steve here? Do you have anything else, Steve, to add?
I understand, I certainly can see where you're coming from, and I do understand, I do. I just really don't want to get caught so far behind the 8 ball in the apparatus fund that it gets put off, because if it gets put off, again, every year it's a 5 to 7% increase on what that apparatus will cost you. And, 5 to 7% on 500,000 is a lot of money. So that's all. In the interest of forward planning, I would really recommend we at least try to stick with keeping that line going.
Okay, anything else from anyone else? Nope, okay, thank you, Steve. Right now, we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't know we were taking a...
This is gonna be 105,
I'm trying to figure out...
adding the roads. They'll bring both road commissioners up at the same time here to start with,
I don't get it.
so. Find your spots there, it's 105. Everybody all set?
No,
Going once, going twice,
no.
What, 105 you said?
105. We're about 4 pages in.
Pages are out of order.
What do they budget for, 120?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay,
That's our average.
Go for it.
go ahead.
All right, Dave Langley, intern District Road Commissioner, North End. Joe Letourneau, District 2. Okay, something a little different this year. We're coming up together to start with, to talk about our stockpile. As we always, so the budget was usually $120,000. Sitting down with Michelle, both me and Joe, we looked at what the averages were. In your notebooks, you will see what the averages are. Does everybody see that on?
It's in the actual notebook.
Yep.
Under Public Works.
Michelle, if you can guide them along so they can see that. This is-
Yep. So the 5-year average for the sand and salt stockpile is 156,000, and some change there. We all know that every year at town meeting or a special town meeting, we vote to ratify an overdraft. based on this $120,000 budget that we currently have. District 1 and 2 plowing, average rate around $96,000 a year. We've been budgeting $84,000 a year. And again, we ratify an overdraft every year.
So that being said, with the 84,000 that we budget, we would like to increase it by 15%, which is a 5-year average. And the sand stockpile is about a 35% average, which sounds like a lot, but we go over that every year. So we're spending that money every year anyway.
Everybody sees that sheet, everybody
I
sees?
found it, sorry.
Okay, all right, yep. So, so we'll jump down to, the sand and stockpile. We've always, through the history, time of history, we've always figured on, putting up 5,000 yards. That price you see at 52,500, the average price has always been, $10.50 a yard delivered. So saying that, we got a wonderful price last year, it was $9.50 yard delivered, whether or not that happens or not. Two things to keep in consideration when we're putting up this stuff here. Diesel fuel, the transport material is an item that is on the stock market, that is traded daily, fuel prices, so not knowing what's gonna happen a year from now, that's why we've increased that, just like with our salt. Our average was 1,650 ton, last year's price was $54.85 a ton for the 18-19 year, that's where we come up with that price, that 90,503. Same thing with salt. Salt is traded daily on the stock market, so that's a variable that we're not sure what it's going to be later on there. So keep those two numbers in mind, that those really fluctuate what we have there. But like Joe was saying, and as you can see in your average sheet, we always have an overdraft. And I think it's just because the budget's always been that low, and we need to increase for the expense of what those numbers are, and bring us back up to where we should be. So at the 5-year average that Michelle has printed out for you guys, that's, you can see those numbers there, and we came out with what it is there. So we don't always have to go to for an overdraft for a special meeting there and do that, so.
Does anybody have any questions on the winter part of the road budget?
The reason why that was always kept conservative for the last 30 years was because there was certain people that felt there was no reason to tax people for an expenditure that you didn't know you were going to have. That's why they never brought this up to the actual cost, hoping that we might have a year that we wouldn't be spending the money. The problem is the amount of money that's put there never increased with the rates. So it ended up, in reality, you had less money to work with than you did 10 years ago.
That's correct. And the other thing is too, is our town has changed, just like every town, every city has. We have more population, we have more people on the road. Dennis will know, 30 years ago, at 11 o'clock, when Sprague Electric and Scio stopped, we never saw anybody till 5 in the morning. There are people on the road all the time. So there was a time 30 years ago where you'd plow till 11 and you'd go in for 5 or 6 hours and then you start your day again. But it isn't like that anymore. People are always on the road, and in this day with the liability and happen to be out there, it compounds that number. All those little things compounds that number and everything. So just to elaborate on that there. So. Any other questions on?
Why don't we break off now with, I guess, District 1?
All right, well, I guess I'm gonna stay here then, so, okay.
You're the top of the page.
Yep. So, in conversation, you guys have seen that, I get, As you all know me, I tend to take things a little bit more. Took it pretty much upon myself with some guidance from the select board, because they asked about it. I broke my budget down. Everybody always just sees that 92,917 number, and it isn't just putting dirt somewheres or whatever. So we went right down through, as you can see, right from the spring cleanup. We kind of looked at some numbers, kind of put some other numbers together to make this work. We never had a line item budget broke down like this to see where our numbers are going and to be able to adjust accordingly. Again, things have changed over the years, and as Dennis had just said, we really haven't stayed with the times and what it takes to keep the town where we're at. Right down through, almost at the end, subcontracting for tree work, stump grinding the stumps on the side of the road instead of pulling them out and making another hazard and things like that. One of the other things that, on that we broke down was radio maintenance. To take and put a used radio into a truck is $300. Well, if you got 6 trucks, that adds up. And a brand new radio to install, brand new radio install is $600. So this money all comes out of that 92,917. And a few days later, there was a few other things that I thought of that we needed, but we don't have a thing to go through. So hopefully this is a good start for whoever steps into my position in June, and for the town to follow and everything, but we adjust and make things work with that there and everything. So any questions or concerns the way I got this broken down, or?
I just think it's wonderful that it's broken down like this. You can really see.
Yeah. And what I'm hoping for, and talking with Michelle, is that 105-12 number. Let's say we still have, money left over in overhead tree work. We'd be able to take that money, and we ended up having to do some stuff with some culvert work or something. We'd be able to take that money from that line, from that number, and cross it over to offset the bills of other expenses. Like I said, I broke it down just so we can see it and get an idea where our monies are going on that there.
David, what's the other contracted professional services?
Let me see where we're at here. That was, let's say we have a big culvert or something to do, or we need to bring somebody else in that we're not, or let's say like trucking or something like that there. It was in that lines. Wasn't there just one line for that, Michelle?
Yeah, it was subcontractors, was just one line. It was just pretty general.
Yes.
There wasn't any description as to what all the subcontractors are. He has broken out many subcontracted services, and then that other contracted professional services is specifically for the spring cleanup. It could be anybody that, he would subcontract to come in and do the work. Or, if he had somebody come in with the ride-on power broom, whatever, just to reduce the time that they're out there. I can attest that typically, annually, historically, in the past, let's say 5 to 10 years, $12,000 is not an unheard of number to be spent on spring cleanup with, cleaning all the sand that's put down all winter long. Because it's labor hours. It's somebody out there with a power broom or a push broom. And we all know that takes much longer than somebody going, down the road with a machine.
Well, in the past, several years too, and we're gonna be looking at this before we're done. Efficiency makes a big difference in your service.
That's correct.
And you can have a 20-horse machine out there making the absorbent rates we're paying for them, plus with a sweeper and the rate we pay for that. And then we also pay to replace the brushes on the sweeper. And for some reason, the last few years, they've decided that they want to sweep the whole length of the road, every road in town. Hopefully, moving forward, some of this stuff will, as a road commissioner, you'll be doing what's necessary. And not just there to, knowing that you're not gonna be the next road commissioner anyway, but, that it isn't laid out as, just put money in a contractor's pocket. Hopefully, we're gonna, look at the whole thing, and hopefully, the road commissioners come forward with again, just like I said with the fire department, a maintenance plan. You know, what's your intent? Okay? If you're going to, obviously, anybody that goes up and down the roads know that the shoulders are in bad shape. Okay? What's your intention on what you're gonna be fixing for shoulders this year? How many miles, or how many feet, or what's the cost gonna be per mile or per foot to do that? And the townspeople need to be told up front.
Correct. Yep.
We went through this the other night at that meeting we had Wednesday night.
Yep.
You know, when the gentleman explained to us, transparency, whether you accomplish what your plan is or not. If you don't accomplish it, you tell the people why you didn't accomplish it, and they'll be a lot more forgiving than, if you just don't do it.
That's correct.
And then they felt like they're misled, and before all this stuff is voted on, as a Warren Finance Committee member, and my responsibility is to the town meeting, and advising the town meeting what's in their best interest for the amount of money they're spending, if it's worth it to them or not. I would like to see, David, and I appreciate what you did here, but I would like to see a plan. I've been asking for a long time for a 5-year plan, and I also think there's a difference. You can also do and I understand the change, but you could also do what your intent is for a maintenance plan for the roads for the next year.
Yep, oh, definitely. And, you know, this just breaking down these numbers is a start. We've never had that.
I appreciate that.
You know, we've got to start somewhere. And one of the biggest things that myself and Joe talked to was, it'd be nice to have a 3-ring binder in her office and pull that down, and that's what we need. In the meeting we had the other night, and we'll go over it when we get to surface and reconstruction on the paving, the same thing. And, you know, you asked about that line. Another thing I've thought of is guide rails. We should have a line for guide rail maintenance. I mean, there's a few little things. So as time goes on and we build these line items, it's gonna change. Year to year, or something new or whatever, and that's the beauty of it. We can add.
Everything needs to be laid out there.
Exactly. And I've always said that, and I've said it from the start also. Transparency, and if you educate people, educate the board, educate the public, they'll stand behind us. Just like they always did with us on the fire department, it's the same thing. And people want to know where it's going and stuff there, so. But no, exactly, but you know, it's a start, and as you all know, me and Joe we came in halfway through the winter, so to know where the concerns of the roads are and where things are, you know, it's gonna take a year, you know, to say, okay, this is where we're gonna be, this is where we need to be, this is where we should be. But until the snow goes and we get out and see where the trouble areas are, you know, as soon as somebody gets elected in June, that's gonna be the first thing, probably the first 90 days, is they're gonna have to lay out where they need to be at. And that needs to come right from the select board and to make sure we're headed in the right direction, so next year at this time, we got a better feel of
But I think
things.
regardless of who's the road commissioner, from what I hear, and my own personal perspective is, the town meeting needs some kind of a layout, whether it's from the selectman's office working with the road commissioners and the road committee, some kind of a layout of what the expectations are gonna be for this coming year.
Oh, good.
You know, I don't wanna wait another year till people get some experience under their belt, because there's plenty of people out there with experience that could help lay this stuff out.
We are working on that, Dennis, right now.
Yeah, I
So,
think
you know.
the biggest hardship for the two standing road commissioners is that they came in the middle of winter, and they don't know what all the shoulders look like. There's snow bankings, there's ice. They don't know what to expect. They've been hoping for things to melt down so they could get out there and do some measurements and see where the really bad stuff is, that's gonna take priority. It is something that's definitely being worked on, and hopefully we'll have a better idea as we see some more melting.
I remember, oh, I'm sorry, Arnie.
That that RSMS that the road committee did last year, they would have a lot of that data down there that you would get a head start on.
Exactly.
Where to go look when the snow
And I wish
starts
we had
melting,
that.
look first.
That's just it. That should have been on the shelf in the office, so we could have pulled that 4 weeks ago, and we could have we really could have nailed these things down. That's, everybody needs to work together on that, and if we would have had that, and that's just a stumbling on the stepping stone, and that was something that we talked about, and that's gonna be something that's really gonna be.
Yeah, you're gonna, not to interrupt, you're gonna see when we get to the office assistant lines, that we're gonna talk more about that RSMS system and some ideas that the selectmen have, so we're definitely looking to incorporate it to assist with the road commissioners.
And everything, yeah, so, okay, so let's, then we'll go to 105-14, surfacing and reconstruction. The District 1 roads, paving wise, we're in excellent shape. I mean, the former road commissioner was very aggressive on paving. We do have some culvert work and things on a few roads that need to be done. And then we're gonna go into more of a maintenance, crack sealing, I think, type program. From the meeting that we were at the other night with Jerry Douglas, brought in some real good ideas. Things change all the time, and we need to stay up on that stuff there. So paving wise, we're in good shape. But that $99,000, that's a maintenance number. You know, fortunate enough, we're ahead enough on the North District that, you know, with some good maintenance, a lot of our roads, we can stay in that curve. We can stay in that 7 to 10 year curve that he showed on the chart. But to get where we want to be, if we're going to start reconstruction road, you know, redoing roads like they should be, grinding everything, that number needs to be inflated quite a bit. But until we get some numbers and really see what we're going to be at square footage, that's something that I don't foresee us doing this year. I mean, we don't have the funds, and worrying about what tax numbers are going to be. I would say we'd have to hold that number there unless I get guidance from some other department head and says, let's put some numbers together and see what the people want to do, but, with that there. But you can.
When you say maintenance, what do you mean, like crack sealing? What does that mean?
Yeah, I'll use like West Shore Drive for an example. We do have some spider crack and everything there, and some of the new applications is what they call chip sealing. They spray a liquid tar, then they put a stone on it and they roll it, so you have a big blanket. Instead of just filling the crack, you seal, just like seal coating your driveway. I'm gonna do the same thing. That would, with the curve and the way they do it nowadays, that would give us, you know, 7, hopefully between 5 and 10 years extra before you need to go in and start doing a complete regrinding and redoing the road over. So that was, you know, something we're looking at, but like I said, to do that, you're looking at $30,000 a mile. So, I mean, you're only gonna get 3 miles out of that, and then you still have to do shoulder work and maintenance work to it to make it all work together there. So, so that's something that eventually is gonna have to be adjusted, but as Mr. Long had said, if we have a plan.
Just call me Dennis.
So once we get some numbers down and see where we're at, then we can build a budget and be able to look out a few years and see what it's gonna be, so.
The difference is you can do, like you say, 3 miles of road with a chip seal to preserve it.
Yeah.
Opposed to a half a mile of road.
Grinding it, yeah.
Grinding and hot dog.
Yeah, so, with that there, so, on that. Okay, so that takes care of that. Any questions on how I got that broken down, and any concerns?
I have one question, and I don't know if it's in your budget or elsewhere. For the upcoming bridge issues that we have, is that in your budgets, the two of you? Where is that? Any preparation?
We have some capital improvement lines at the end we'll talk about with general government that includes some ideas for bridges.
Okay, so it's not under your...
No, this here is just a very, very general winter, summer maintenance program
Special
numbers.
projects,
Yes,
so to speak.
type thing, yeah, but it would go into, those there, ma'am, would go into a CIP program. Maybe next year, we will have a line for the North District, South District as a CIP program, capital improvement program. So we
Good.
keep putting a little money, just like we do with the fire trucks, you know?
Right.
So when we do have an issue or something that we're able to be able to...
You'll already have some money
Exactly,
aside.
yeah, to go put away there, so.
The other thing that I would like to be addressed between now and when everything's finalized, the rates that we're paying, David,
Yep.
they're all over the place. Some are in line, some are a little too low, and some of them are way too high. And I think that doing it right by using rates that, first off, you can go by the state rates, okay? This is the rates that the state pays for any private contractor that does work for the state. For many years, we went state rate plus $1 on stuff, and maybe that dollar isn't sufficient anymore, you know what I mean, the cost of everything. But I do know there's some things that we're paying an exorbitant amount of money for, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. There's just no way that, the loader, for example, this is two different things here, and I probably should have spoke about it back at the stockpile thing. I mean, we're paying $2 a ton to load the trucks. And if we're using 5,000 yards a year, if that's what you're planning on, I mean, that's $10,000. That's just taking the stuff out.
That's correct.
Then you got the expense of putting it back in. Then you've got the expense that the town uses the loader to go out and put some snow bankings back. So at the minimum, we're spending $15,000 a year for a loader. Well, it's a waste of the taxpayers' money to be spending $15,000 a year for a loader. It'd be in the best interest of the taxpayers to go out and buy a 4-yard loader or 5-yard loader. You can buy a pretty darn nice loader for $50,000, you know that.
Yep.
And 3 years, you'd be breaking even. And in 10 years, you'd be saving yourself an awful lot of money.
Yep. Yeah,
So lots of times that loader, as you know, it just sits.
That's correct.
And that's why it's hard for any contractor to buy a loader for that purpose, because 90% of the year it sits there, does nothing.
And this is where we're at. I mean, typically, town history, that's the way they were always done, but as I've said at previous meetings, we're at that crossroad. We're at that crossroad where we need to look, whether it's my taxes and everybody else's, what's going to be efficient for the town and what's going to be efficient for the future, and everything. So, yeah, I agree. It's something that we need to look at, and then it would be something that we'd be able to use down there and be able to use. Last night, we had culverts that were plugged. We had an issue on the H Road. I understand exactly where you're coming from. We've had this conversation, but we're at that crossroad where we need to look and get some guidance and see where we want to go.
I mean, we've been doing business this way for 200 years now.
Yep.
And even I, as backwards as I can be, I still see we got to move into the future a little bit.
Yep, exactly.
On the DOT's website, there is the chart of state rates, and then I did some research online about it, and I think it's common for municipalities, I know he said plus $1, but I think it's common for municipalities to use the state rate plus 10%.
Yeah, Shapley uses state rates plus 15%.
Yeah,
So-
that's fair, and honestly, even at that, it would be
12.5.
it would be a lot more fair to the taxpayers.
I think in Shapley, what we saw 2 years ago was based on those state rates, it wasn't economical for the road commissioners and the people they hired to continue plowing. And they went out to bid, and now they're out to contract, which is a whole different set of issues. And in conversation with some of the people that were plowing, and they looked at Acton's rate and said, you know, if we were getting paid those rates, we would probably still be plowing. I think the rates are good. I think decreasing them, I think we're gonna run into the same problem. Nobody's gonna want the job,
Well,
but
the trouble is too with plowing historically, at least in the past 40 years, there's never been any money in plowing anyway, no matter where you are. There's money in sanding, but there isn't money in plowing.
And in this day and age, to buy a very good, dependable truck, I mean, if you're gonna, you know, buy a real good truck, you're gonna start at 60,000 plus, you know, so, I mean, in our rates, you know.
We need to look at the rates.
Yep, and that's something we need to, me and Joe need to get guidance from.
Absolutely.
Let's continue this at a selectmen's
Exactly.
meeting or something,
Yep.
so we still gotta go through another half, and we're 40,
As long as I can have more than 3 minutes, Ed.
today you can have pretty much what you want.
So.
As long as you stick within the.
Yep, so
timeframe.
we're in pretty good shape with that there. The only, if you will move right along here, 105-32 Public Works Facility. Everything's there. Joe's got a number line there. One that I had, we looked up, since that building's been built, and even the blue other garage building, we don't have anything for overhead door maintenance. So we put some numbers of $3,000 in there, and get Portland Overhead down there and do a spring service on those doors, get into an annual service contract with them or something. You're looking at, I can't even imagine what that large overhead door costs. So we need to stay up maintenance on it. It hasn't been touched since it's been put in and everything there. So, and then you'll see the last one. There's probably, until the snow goes, I'm guessing there's probably 3,000, Joe said the same thing, 3,000, 4,000 yards of waste material down there, I guess at one time. There was a gravel processing line, I guess it was taken out last year or the year before at town meeting. We put that number back in to see. We have material sitting there, raw material, if we could process it. It'll save on our trucking costs, either out of Carroll's or wherever, but that's something that we can look at, and you know, that was just kind of putting it out there to see what the body would like to do. If they want to pursue that, we can get some better numbers.
Talking about that gravel processing line, and I spoke to the school committee about this last week. That was set up when the town decided to go down there on school property and start processing, digging in that ridge out next to the swamp and digging that out. With that being said, they've gone in and out of there for quite a few years now. I feel the town needs to go and close that up. It's not safe.
Are you talking about at the school?
At the school.
I'm talking about the waste pile that's at the sand.
I understand
Okay,
that.
all right, just to
This is
clarify.
another
Yep.
issue that
Yep.
needs to be dealt with, and I didn't know the gravel processing count was done away with last year. But, because my suggestion was to use that, to close that up down there. I don't think it's, it is a school, but I don't think it's fair to the school budget to reclaim that, where it was all reclaimed before the town went in there and made the mess they made. And it's not safe for the children. The town has gone in and out of there during school hours with equipment that is not safe. They would not, some of the stuff wouldn't pass an MSHAR inspection. And I think it's poor business on the town's part. And then when the school has activities, you got kids playing up on the hill and all that. And you know, David, you gotta maintain a certain slope for the safety of the children. And somewhere in the road budget, wherever the selectmen would see or the road commissioners would see, I would like to see that closed up this summer, so it's safe for the children again down there. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are gonna be on it, but I brought it up in the school.
That's something we can discuss at, selectmen's meeting or at a workshop.
Let's wrap up your side, Dave, because we
Yep.
still gotta.
And, that's, like I said, I broke it down is from what we thought we would need, or whoever would need, and everything there, just to see where these numbers were gonna put us. And,
Thank you.
And still be able to operate and be safe there, so. Any other questions for me?
Anything else for Dave? No, good, thank you. Joe?
So, excuse me. We went over the District 2, excuse me, winter maintenance. Excuse me. District 2 summer maintenance, I've got 92,917, which we kept the same. And I did break mine down, but mine's broken out a little bit different than David's. But as you can see, some of the numbers in there, like up mowing and tree work and, so I broke that down. Any questions on that? Has everybody got it?
That's just your basic summer maintenance.
Yeah, that's just the general summer maintenance.
Is there any way that?
Where is that?
Is there any way that we could have the same breakdown, category-wise, as District 1?
I think he pretty much does, he just has a few less breakdowns.
Right. It's pretty much the same, but I didn't have a line item in there for like a town radio or, because once they're in my eyes, they're in.
Okay.
So, and he had one for stump grinding, which I actually was supposed to put yesterday, or the other day. Supposed to be subcontract tree work / stump grinding. So I was just rolling that into one, because usually if you're gonna have somebody stump, or tree service do it, then they also stump grind too, so.
Okay.
I just figured I would roll that into one.
Joe, that 10,000 for the contracted professional services, what are you seeing that as?
That would be, anybody else, that, if I was gonna sub somebody out with a bigger machine or, truck in, or, basically the same thing as David said. Anybody that you're gonna have that you're gonna subcontract out.
So that would be like,
Mainline fence for guardrails.
Right.
if say like with me, if I had a dump truck and you were gonna hire me to work for the road, work for the, that would come out of that.
Just the same thing as like the subcontracted plowing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Maybe it could have been worded a little differently, but.
The road commit, construction equipment rental, what is that looking at?
As far as, well, that'd be like, my excavator, doing ditching, the 6-wheeler dump truck, or my 550, or for out patching, that type of equipment, skid steer.
That's your equipment.
Yeah.
Are there more miles of road in your district than the other one for summer maintenance?
No, they broke it up the same because we don't maintain Fox's Ridge and Milton Mills, so I actually have some roads like near Horn Pond, Youngs Ridge.
Okay.
That type of, but I believe that,
The
I would
overall-
assume it's broken down 50/50 for
I think
summer.
it's broken down so it averages out. So
Right.
what one side has less in the summer, they have more of in the winter.
I thought, yeah. Okay.
The overall condition of your roads are a little, I think when you look at, what David's dealing with and what you're dealing with, I think your roads need more
Attention,
work,
yeah.
more attention.
I agree.
So I think that explains, the difference in the contracted professional services or the equipment. It's a difference, but yours really.
Well, and that
are
doesn't,
pretty rough.
and then if you go down to the surface and reconstruction, I didn't put in, I left it the same because obviously jumping into this in December, not going through a season to see, I live in the town, I know how the roads, the condition of most of the roads, but without being a get down, see the ditch, see the culvert, I don't know which culverts need to be replaced. And I know there is record of some of that, but I didn't put in for any special project because I didn't want to come up here and shoot at the hip. I want to have some facts, some numbers. So this summer, what I would like to do is meet with, different paving companies or contractors and figure out, come up with a plan for next year. So next year I can present you, say, all right, well, I like to grind, repave a mile of Hopper Road, or whatever it may be, you know what I'm saying? So this year, what I'm gonna do is just pick the really bad spots and,
Tend to them.
just, try to get us through until we can actually have a solid plan to actually start rebuilding the
Now, you
roads.
know that the town is paid to replace those culverts on Hopper Road a few times. I'm wondering, like, before you do it again, would you be open to having like an engineer look at them to figure out, because obviously the way we've been doing it hasn't been working.
Well, we did have a meeting scheduled for engineers to look at the culverts. But I canceled the meeting, well, Dave and I had spoke about canceling it. They wanted to look at the culverts, but I don't think, I thought it was a waste of money to look just at the culverts. We need to come up with a plan for the whole road. Because if you have a plan for the road, it's gonna include the culverts anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. I'm just wondering, like, how much more front-end work I'm gonna have to do on that road.
I try plowing it.
I can't imagine that with a plow.
No. So there are some things that we can do for the meantime, because the culverts, I'm sure, were replaced properly, but the ground's moving.
Underneath it isn't.
So what we could do, because I've talked to a couple other people, instead of cutting 3 foot of the culvert or whatever, the top, taper it back, so you have a more gentle slope, instead of a,
And the base under that, I'm wondering what, you got river on both sides of the
Right.
road. What's the base under there?
well, that's what
Nothing there.
Dennis and I were talking about that last week. The road was built with logs and
Yeah,
it's on a swamp.
yeah.
So that's something that we need to look into.
I
How are we gonna alleviate?
Because I think that the
Culvert
town,
issue.
the taxpayers would be more than willing to pay the money to fix that road if it was done right.
Right.
But when I hear replace the culverts again,
No.
it's like, how many times are we gonna replace
No.
those darn culverts?
Right. We need to have a plan for that road.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't, like I said, I didn't come up with a special project per se because I wasn't prepared, or didn't have enough time to be prepared to present you with some
Yeah, absolutely.
actual information.
Yeah, thank you.
So you're not,
Do they usually show up?
one thing this, to me, has been excessive, is the ditching,
Yeah.
okay? And it seems like, I know
On-
Young's, a lot of roads.
Oh, I didn't know if you were just talking about Hopper Road.
No,
Oh.
Young's Ridge, Hams Hill's been ditched, 3 times and, 2 times in 5 years.
Right.
The hopper, some of the hopper's been ditched a couple of times in 4 or 5 years. There's a lot more work out there, Joe, that you could do. Instead of just, I understand you got machinery and I understand you gotta make money, but it used to be for many years, the road crew was out there, whether it was just a couple of guys, patching, cutting brush.
Right.
Fixing signs. Our signs are terrible in this town.
Oh, horrible. When I posted roads the other day.
There's very few signs that are the right height. There's very few signs that are straight. You could spend a couple of guys 2 weeks on your end of the town just fixing signs.
Yeah.
And replacing the road signs on the private roads and things like that. That's at least a 2-week project.
Oh, yeah.
Which would benefit the town. It
Right.
might not benefit your pocket as much as some things.
Right. Well, those numbers here are subject to change anyway, this was just an idea, but like I said, without going through a season, I had nothing to go by.
Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? So
That's why we really want to work on those 1 and 5
Yeah.
and 10-year plans, so that when.
well, like I said, this summer, if I can, I think really, you should be prepping for your budget for next year in the summer. Because that way there you can get, you might have to add 15% if things go up, but at least you got a pretty good idea of what you want to do as far as projects for the following year.
And I think you still need some kind of a maintenance plan that
Right.
you're intending, Joe, even for this year.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And we have to have a 5-year plan.
But as far as like preventative maintenance besides shoulder work and things like that to do on my roads, there ain't enough crack sealer in the state of Maine to fix some of the roads that I have.
Appreciate that.
There isn't. So,
And that's because of the quality of the base.
that's why to throw money at something, we're better off just to do a section of mile of road a year if we can do it, but do it right.
I don't know how many people here would remember this, when the state gave us back, they call San Page Road now, what was 0109.
Yep.
You go down up by the hill and it was all ledge there, it was all broke up. And people were complaining about it all the time. So Robert Yetton got sick of listening to it, because nobody gave him any money to fix it.
Yeah.
And he went up and he tore all that hot top off and gravelled it. And the following year, they gave him the money to pave it.
Right.
You're about at that point on the hopper.
Oh, yeah.
Dennis, I think that probably was 1964.
It still served the same
I
purpose.
mean, there's spots on the Hop Road that are decent, but once you get down pretty much by Gertens and you start coming up over that hill, you might as well forget it all the way to the dam. It's just
It's
horrible.
horrible.
Yeah. Okay, let's,
So anyway.
The only other thing
on
I
here.
wanted to know is if, and this is separate from any of that, the training, because I know, like, you're experienced in, you know, this line of work, obviously, but you haven't been a road commissioner before.
Right.
Is there money for training, or are all those classes the state offers free? Or, like, because I know they're constantly doing workshops and stuff like that. Does there need to be money in here for that? Or are those all free? Because I think any new
Yeah.
road commissioner is gonna have to come.
A majority of the state-run classes are free. If there were classes that MMA puts on, and there aren't too many pertaining to roads, those would be a fee. But I think probably the best thing to do is the MMA puts out a training schedule, and it's actually just come out within the past week or so, and it shows anything that's offered over the next year.
Right.
So you can look to see if there's anything pertaining to Public Works that, you know, you would be interested in, that would benefit you as a road commissioner.
My brother's gone to quite a few of them, and he tells me they have great food.
And we do have a municipal management training line. We could probably, if we found something that you wanted to go to and it wasn't budgeted, there's also a lot of online ones for free, so.
Well, liability-wise, there's a lot of things out there that you're supposed to be doing.
Oh, baby.
That if you don't know you're supposed to be doing it. An example would be your barricades.
Right.
All your barricades are directional. Okay? A lot of people don't know that.
Right.
Well, somebody that does know that, and that barricade's up there, and they follow where you're supposed to go, say like down there where the problem was down in the hopper, you could end up driving into the river because the barricade's directioning you the wrong way.
Right.
And instead of taking it to the right, you follow it to the left, and
Right.
kind of defeated the purpose.
okay. Okay, anything else for Joe?
Thank you, Joe.
Okay,
All set?
All
I
set?
will point out one thing that is in Joe's budget that you don't see in David's budget, is that there's a little bit of a money there for Flat Ground Road based on the agreement with the Flat Ground Road residents. The town is required to grade and repair any drainage issues throughout the year.
General maintenance.
Yeah, so it's just a small amount in there that's,
That's after the 9,000.
Right.
There was already from this year's budget, right? That special town meeting.
that special town meeting is to finish what they
Right.
started. And then here, there's $5,000 added for his
Okay.
annual grading.
okay, thank you, Joe. Yep.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Rec Department, we're running just about an hour behind here, so
What number is that?
Half hour.
1:13.
That's easy, right, Chris?
Right,
Chris will make up for it.
for the most part.
Probably the best way to look at the rec department budget is actually in the book. There are several pages there that they break out, all of the different activities.
Are they in other?
Oh, in the back.
Where are they?
No, there is a Department 113. Should be a,
Oh, right here, got it, thank you. My book is all a mess.
you are in the right place.
Where'd you get that binder?
Should be the second to the last tab, I think.
This was here.
I guess it is the last.
Everybody find that?
Different one during the break.
Okay, go ahead.
Mine's not. Hold it.
Okay, To be raised is, we're $21,448.75 from the town, and that, we broke it down per sport: baseball, basketball, soccer, the ice rink, and concession stand.
Chris, the only question I had right away, I know it's a minimal amount of money, but you've got, under balls for soccer and basketball, you're buying needles and pumps for both of those sports. Couldn't they be shared?
Well, yeah, the needles could, but obviously the balls can't be shared.
The pumps.
Yeah, pumps could be shared.
So you could save, it's only $55, but.
Actually, the issue is the difference. During basketball, the coaches are going to have the bag of balls and a pump because a lot of the rec stuff got ruined being stored in the closet at the school during basketball season. So during soccer, we have our shed up there that we can keep one or two pumps in there for everybody, but during basketball, every coach is gonna need their own. So we kind of just allotted, right now, we don't have any we have like one working pump total for
Okay.
the whole department. So
it's just a matter of where
it's
they're
just-
located?
Yes, we
Okay.
need more for basketball, so we kind of allotted that to, instead of just putting them all in soccer, we kind of allotted really what it was gonna be for that sport. I don't know if that explained it.
I think you ought to just buy an electric one. It's a lot easier on everybody.
Nope.
It would be.
Nope.
We like the exercise.
Yes, it's part of our adult fitness program.
That's good.
Moving on. Okay, any other questions for?
I just want to make a couple notes that the concession stand looks like a loss, but that's because we're really expanding the concessions that we offer. So if anybody didn't pick up on that, we're buying a grill, we're buying a popcorn machine, we're buying a refrigerator, right? What else?
A hot dog steamer.
Hot dog steamer.
That was a big
point of contention.
Yeah, so you have, the supplies line, I'm assuming, is that food?
No, the supplies is the paper products.
Oh.
And food, both, but honestly, we go through a lot of paper products.
Okay. So that's
And ice
paper
packs.
and food.
ice packs.
And you'll have a place to store the grill?
Yeah.
We'll store it in the concession stand, the
Oh, okay.
snack shack. That's pretty secure.
Myself personally, I would like to commend the rec department and the way they laid their budget out. There's nothing there that you can't understand. To me, it's just a great job. Big difference.
I think they've done good too in the past year to build what they've built out of the rec department. It's come a long ways in a year and a half, so.
Thank you.
It's doing well. Anything else for the rec?
I'd like to give Chris a hard time about something, but I can't think of anything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for not.
Okay? All set?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Okay, next, cemetery conservation forest.
I don't imagine we have anybody here for them.
Okay.
Typically, Tom Cashin would come and.
Yep, understood.
There's no increase on that budget when we took out the,
There's no increase on the conservation. We did increase the forester
stipend.
stipend.
Yep.
Why?
Yeah.
The selectmen had discussed it at a Board of Selectmen's meeting, and they essentially took the amount of the stipend based on the amount of hours that he indicates that he works for the town, just as a town forester. Took into consideration the time since he's gotten an increase, and came up with a new formula.
I don't understand what he does as the town forester. I mean, he would develop or is developing a plan on the town forest.
Supposed to be.
Which we paid a lot of money to have him do. As far as the town forester per se, I don't understand what he does.
He attends a couple meetings a month, or at least one meeting a month with the planning board. No?
No. I've been on it since November, and he hasn't been to one.
So why don't we reschedule the forestry until we can have him in front of us and he
Yeah.
can
Okay.
explain it himself?
Yeah, it seemed like he had told us he put in so many hours per month.
Right, and that's what he,
Well, I'm gonna tell you where I'm coming from. One, I don't think his pay should be doubled, but the other part is, the town itself, the municipality itself, when it comes to the planning board, is out of the forestry business. The town has no authority over the forestry business. It's all handled through the state. And you'll see in our recommendations on the zoning to do away with certain parts of our zoning, the state has told us that we need to do away with anything we have in there to do with forestry, because we don't have the authority over this. So you'll see anything to do with the forestry is coming out of recommended to come out of our zoning. With that being said, you can call the state Forest Service if you have an issue, which that's what you need to do. I don't see the purpose of even having one anymore.
I think you've got some valid points, so we'll get him here and get him to a selectmen's meeting or maybe the next one on finance. I know you guys are meeting on Monday, it may be short notice, and in the forester's defense, not regarding his salary, but that position for health reasons also, personal reasons, Carl Davis just recently stepped down as the chair, and he stepped into it. So we have had some communication lapses between, when we originally sent this packet and was scheduled to one, and he didn't get the other one. So let's get him either, maybe I'll see if I can possibly get him here Monday. You're voting on the school, maybe for a very quick 5 or 10 minute presentation.
I mean, I understand there's a difference between
I know, but I just-
the forestry committee.
I think he's got to be able to explain it.
Because a committee member, you don't get paid.
True.
Very true.
Okay,
So the board wants me to see if I can get him in front of you guys?
sure.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. Okay, anything else on that? Cemetery. Do we have anybody here for that?
Lois was unable to attend today's meeting. There is a slight increase in that line of $450 in your books under Department 106 to 109 Other. There is an explanation of the different types of supplies that they're looking for.
Well, the flags and all that's out of the cemetery committee. That's where all that money comes from.
Flags,
The veterans'
holders,
flags and holders, and yes.
Who cares?
Yep.
Wet and Forget for working on different stones. Cemetery signs, we would like to try, being as I am a sitting member of the cemetery committee, I'll try to explain. Cemetery signs, we'd like to try to get all of the cemetery signs to be uniform. In other words, you don't have this sign looking this way and then a different sign, totally different. We'd like them all to be the same, okay? It just makes, more sense in, trying to be uniform. Not that we're necessarily going to be successful in doing that, because there are some cemeteries which are family cemeteries, and you may have some problems trying to get family people to accept changes. Ground cover, we're still investigating ground cover. We're trying to come up with something that we can introduce to a particular cemetery plot where it will give good cover, but not produce, a lot of, oh my God, we gotta go in there and, weed whack and, you know, all this other maintenance stuff. We checked out a couple of different things and neither one of them worked out. So it's still under investigation. Gravestone repair, as Lois would tell you, you're looking at about $1,000 per stone if you start, you know, going out and repairing stones. Having gone around to maybe half of the cemeteries in the town, there's no way in God's green earth that we're ever going to accomplish all the repair work that needs to get done. It is not gonna happen.
Does that include private cemeteries?
If it's got a veteran in it, we're required to, you know, maintain
Just veterans?
veterans, okay? However, you know, there's a lot of cemeteries that we've been to that, you know, they're very long-standing families within this town, and, you know, some of the cemeteries that we have, like the cemetery that's behind the old Langley place, it's maintained by Jim Langley, and it's beautifully maintained. I mean, he does an excellent job, and it's got a lot of historical value there. All these cemeteries have got a lot of historical value. Unfortunately, there's a lot of cemeteries that we come across where all you have are field stones as, you know, headstones. And unfortunately, some people think that they can just go remove those field stones, and you can't. That's a disservice. Gas for equipment, obviously, that's self-explanatory. Or tune-up. Foundry parts. Jay has started, he's one of the volunteers that is out of Shapley. He started casting, you know, on the flag you have a marker that, you know, basically identifies World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, whatever. Rather than buying these things, Jay has started casting them. He purchased some sand. We have come up with, he has a foundry, and we've come up with a supply of aluminum cans. And we're casting them. Hey, it works. And, you know, when you're spending from $7 to $8 to $15 for one of these, you know, cast marker, you know, it's a big savings. So, and then, you know, miscellaneous tools is straightforward. Any questions?
Yeah. First off, I'd like to see some numbers next to this list.
Numbers?
Say some dollar amounts.
Oh.
Okay?
I'll pass that on.
Kind of basically, like the rec department, we just saw with the rec department.
Itemized.
I think it'd be great.
Not a problem.
And I don't know if most people realize, but we have over 70 cemeteries in town.
You've got over 100.
Well, there's over 70, isn't 100 over 70? Jeez, even with the modern math, I know that's right.
In actuality, the number keeps going up because...
You keep finding them.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, you know, I mean...
And there's a few that have moved.
There are some, you have cemeteries and then you have family plots, and they all fall into the same category as far as some people are concerned.
Right, and as far as veterans, it doesn't matter where they are.
Yeah.
This number is a small number. And so I really don't agree with it. I think this number ought to be increased to $5,000. And if it means that we can repair a couple of more stones a year, I think that is the least we can do to have the privilege to sit here and go through this stuff. I think it's very, very short money. Out of over $7 million a year that we're spending, a couple $1,000 more to help maintain the veterans' grave, and I wish the selectmen would rethink their number on that.
Well, the cemetery committee put that forward,
I
so do we...
appreciate that, and they're very conservative.
Do we know when the cemetery committee is gonna have another meeting and maybe see if there's any special projects they might want to throw in there to maybe get to Dennis's goal?
Unfortunately, I can't give you that information. I honestly don't know.
So I'll follow up with the chair.
Yep.
And see if we can, see if there's some projects and,
I personally would support an increase in the funding of the cemeteries.
yep.
Just based on the fact that I'm trumped, through various places and stepped in gopher holes and.
It's a lot of work.
Been,
No, absolutely.
Been accosted by firearm carrying individuals. One of the cemeteries we went to down on the end of the H Road before you get to Acton Ridge Road.
Just don't say his
There
name.
is a cemetery, he wasn't accosted, I used the wrong word, okay? Right across from where the Camaries live, if you walk out probably 100 yards, maybe 150 yards, there's a cemetery out there. Yes, there's veterans in it, and unbeknownst to us, it's right next door to an individual who lives on the left-hand side of, depending on which way you're going, he lives close proximity, and apparently the Camaries had gave him a heads up, hey, there's some people walking out there, and, here comes a guy walking up to the cemetery, and he's got a pistol on his hip. So it was kind of a,
Welcome to Maine.
whoa, hello.
So I'll reach out to the cemetery chair, and if she's not able to call a meeting, maybe, we may have to call one without her and see if there's some projects that they might
I
like to
think he said
include
it's
to
almost
increase it.
$1,000 to redo a stone.
Yep.
There's a lot to do,
If you're
so.
looking at it, it is rather expensive, so.
Got it.
Okay. Anything else
That's it
on
for the
that?
cemetery, moving on.
Okay.
If you would allow, Selectman Walsh, the health and welfare dams and public safety is kind of incorporated into the general government, the lines that Michelle and I will be going through with you. So if we could allow Ken Paul to go next, then we'll start at the beginning of municipal management, and we'll incorporate those ones as we go through.
Sure.
Is that okay?
General government.
Is his budget even in the book?
It's called land use, 102.
Really?
501.
It's under general government.
They left that out of my book.
I don't think I have that. So it's the same, it should be the second page that we've been
Oh.
going through, so the top.
And just because Roland just mentioned this, some of the binders are tight and it's hard to turn the pages.
Very.
Every year I ask that you return your binder at the end of budget season because I didn't have money budgeted for them this year, so we're reusing what we have in the office. So if you can return them, that way, I can get some of the bigger ones and the pages will turn right next year, that'd be great.
Is everybody at land use?
I can't find it.
Land use, proposed budget.
Thank you, Arnie. I appreciate it.
Oh my God, what have you done? Well, nothing turns, so I have to keep taking stuff out. I had
She did.
two of one of them.
I'm gonna get you in order here.
102. 504, 501.
Keep going. We'll find it.
Want me to help you out?
No. I enjoyed
Like a
it.
little kid.
That's why we have the planning board using
I've got
colored
this one
paper. I can
here.
tell which color they're on. I can know when they're not following with us and need help.
Yep.
Have these. Oh, here, is it here?
Hey, did everybody find it?
All right, this is what we're getting ready to go over. Land use right now.
Thank you.
And that's what you're gonna need next.
Last page.
Okay, perfect.
She's good, go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead, Ken.
Good morning. Do you guys have any questions with any of the lines? Anything special you want me to go over, or?
Yeah, I do. Director of Land Use, CEO salary.
Yeah,
Does that say it's a 77% increase?
no.
The lines are off there.
Okay.
So it's actually a 17.71.
Oh, that's good then. I said, geez, that didn't, that's a lot.
And those were hours changes, why the increases on that 77, that's an increase to, well, the secretary bringing that up 12 hours, we're trying to increase. We've had obviously a significant amount of building going on, and planning department has picked up a tremendous amount. We're trying to avoid an additional person down there, because is this a short-time growth, is this a long-term? We really didn't want to add hours to mine and the deputies' lines, but we're gonna try it this year, and hopefully it either stabilizes out, or we can see and come up with another plan next year, or make it work within that scope.
I mean, you used all your building permits last year, Ken.
Growth
I mean,
permits
growth
for new
permits.
homes, yes, which is a small amount of the activity that we actually do in new homes.
But the point being, if you haven't done that for a while,
Probably 10 years.
and so that alone is increased amount of work. And the other things that are going on in town with the campgrounds and the subdivisions and the place is pretty busy, and a lot busier than it was 4 or 5 years ago.
We had proposed $60,000 in fees coming in for the full year. We're at $82,000 right now. So we've exceeded that. So the fees come in this year, the inspections are kind of done next year, and sometimes the permits are a couple of years old to do the whole process.
In the fees are set and to offset the cost of land use enforcement and permits.
We've looked at it several years, different boards have different opinions. A lot of times we look at it as a user fee, people that use our services pay for that services as well, so it doesn't cost the taxpayers. We've had other boards say the whole town benefits by the housing meeting minimum standards and the zoning being enforced, so they could say no fees is good, but it's hard for a Warrant and Finance Commission to ignore 100, 150, 200,000. And basically it's just covering the user fees for the people that are using our services. We did have a fee increase recently, and we focused on the area that's taken a tremendous amount of our time, but the fees weren't adequate, and that's in the planning and the inspections for these projects that are going on. I know a lot of you guys have seen the subdivisions going in and the gravel pits, the campgrounds going up. We've got a dog animal rescue league coming in. That's probably going to be a $250,000 project if that goes through as well too. So things like that take a tremendous amount of time.
And these, like a campground, I mean, that takes a lot of inspections. The revenue.
The owners of the campground really realized somewhat on that this was the same as a subdivision. It was a 56-lot campground. You have to identify each lot, pin them all out, then you had underground utilities, the water, sewer, the electrical, you had the stormwater, you had the traffic. It's the same thing as a 56-lot subdivision, but we don't have the people staying year-round using the real services that a subdivision would create.
You also don't create the revenue for the town that is through taxes that the regular subdivision would.
If all the houses were there.
You know what I mean? So it's,
So what do you have for help right now downstairs?
We have a deputy inspector that tries to do the enforcement and preps on the planning board side, and we have a secretary as well. The deputy is 32 hours a week, and the secretary is 20. So a lot of...
Putting them up to 40 for the deputy?
35 on the deputy and 32 on the secretary. So a lot of times I come in Saturday and we were running about a month behind on permitting. So a lot of times I come in on a Saturday and do a stack of them, sit them on her desk, and a week later they're still sitting there because she hasn't got time to process them. 20 hours a week really isn't that long. That's the day-to-day walk-in stuff. So for me to get everything all prepped and have it there, we want to get them out the door. I know we just scheduled an inspection yesterday. It's almost a month out. They weren't in a hurry, so we didn't try to block out the next week or two, but
We want to provide a service, same day, next day is ideal, but most of them are a week out currently.
So you're gonna try it with it?
Is your office open?
Same as town hall.
How many is that?
So 24 to 27, depending on the Saturday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Fridays are 7-hour days, Thursdays 4, so that's 25 plus Saturday, so 25 to 28.
So you think you can work with that 32, Ken? Try it, see how it works.
For the secretary?
Yeah.
It's going to help dramatically to get the data processing going forward. It'll be 12 hours, it's almost not doubling, but pretty close to it.
It should be able to come in hours that the town hall's not open, so
Yep.
you get an extensive amount of stuff done when the town hall's not open, as long as you hide your car.
And the other thing is employee retention too. Now that we've got somebody trained and working that, we want to give enough hours so they're not looking for other jobs. I mean, currently she has a couple of other ones. Ideally, she'd be able to quit those and come and focus on this, train them in retention. The worst thing you can have is a turnover where you keep having new staff and you got to retrain, and it makes it difficult for the public as well as us too.
And that's very important. I know Jen's talked in the past about training her deputies.
Yeah.
And as soon as they know what they're doing, they go somewhere and make a living.
Right to the seacoast.
You know. And I mean, it's in the same boat down there.
I have a question about the legal expenses. It says it's getting moved to municipal management. I was under the understanding that that your department, you have to be the one to deal with that, as far as can appear in court and meet with the lawyers and stuff, but is it just all under one big umbrella? Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So a lot of the stuff, we try to stay out of court as much as possible, but sometimes without being able to take care of it prior to mitigate when we get there, then we do have to go there. I can't think of a case we've lost where we weren't awarded the attorney's fees and we've gotten it back as well too. So anything fraudulent and just something that we look at and say, there's no way we'll ever win this, we'll mitigate that before we get there.
And what about the whole consulting the lawyer to, we'll check with the lawyer to see if this or that, so it's not, I guess my question is, I don't know, if I'm looking at the whole account.
Yeah.
How much of that was from you? How much of that was from the Board of Selectmen?
Probably Michelle could break that down.
Okay.
His bills are pretty good. When you call, you can hear the clock starting there.
And one of the reasons, Carol, one of the reasons that we added that, we put that together is because so much of the court situations that he has to get run by the Board of Selectmen, or they get involved in it. It's just easier to budget out of one account, because at the end of the day, it's all part of municipal management. So whether, he makes a call to land use that we have a situation going on now that the board has to make a decision on. He's consulting, but at the end of the day, it's still their department. So, and it's just one of those numbers that's really hard to figure out. So by putting it under municipal management, it's just more fair across the board. And he gets permission and consults with the board or with myself through these things, and most of them end up on their plate, so.
Okay, that makes sense.
Anything else, Ken? Any questions?
What do you subcontract?
Southern Maine Regional Planning. Currently, we have a 29-lot subdivision, so the first thing we do is bring it to them, and we'll get a lot of consulting from them. But once it's really starts, once the project is really going, we'll escrow money from the developer and pay them, but we'll use those people for advice and direction.
And what's your equipment?
Has that got the schedule?
Yep, turn the page, Carol, and you'll see a breakdown from the planning board.
Schedule A or Schedule B?
One thing that I found out with Southern Maine is, I don't remember what they increased their
dues.
Was it 20%?
I thought it was more.
It might have been more than that. And I appreciate what they're good for, but you pay dues to be a member, and then you have to pay
To use the services.
hourly for the service.
Part of the membership puts us in a co-op. So our office supplies, like these little binders, if you go to Staples, they're a couple bucks a piece, even Walmart's $1 a piece. I think we pay 10 cents a piece for the actual binder.
Could I,
So they have,
next year then, like pink ones or something?
whatever you'd like, yeah.
Yes, I would like.
So, and they don't have all office supplies, but they have a lot. Paper, copying paper is a big one.
Even the salt, they go out.
Yeah,
They go
salt
out
goes
and,
out to bid.
That's all through Southern.
yes.
Yeah.
They do all
So
that.
I think our copying paper, the price of what Staples charges most businesses versus what we get through the co-op is half.
Easily.
Easily, so there is a benefit there.
So the membership doesn't.
Gets you that.
Doesn't just, it isn't in like Ken's budget.
No.
No.
It's in the municipal
Right.
budget.
Right.
He's budgeting for the services of bringing them in for advice or whatever his department might need, but we're budgeting for their actual dues,
Actual increase and stuff.
so.
That's just-
Because everybody benefits from it, roads.
But that, I mean, that increase is just, to me, ridiculous, but there's not much you can do about it, I guess.
That's what happens when you move from Sanford to Saco.
Yeah.
Yeah. That made it a lot easier on us.
Yep.
Okay, anything else for Ken? Nope. Okay,
Enjoy your afternoon. Thank you.
thank you. Okay,
So I think that brings us to page 1, if you kept them in some sort of order.
It's the governing body is account 102.
It's the only one that's got the header on it. It says FY 1920. Good?
All this is
Good.
on all these pages,
Well,
Yeah.
It's,
the dates the same?
look, yeah, well, they all say
the first one's
314.
gonna look like this.
After deliberations this week, things will be much more copacetic here. It was just a lot of last minute stuff yesterday.
It's hard when they're
Proposed
loose.
budget on the top. Everybody got
You
it?
guys can start.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'll catch
So
up.
Michelle and I are gonna just go through these with you, just feel free to stop us. He told us to start.
Got it.
You good, Dennis?
Go ahead, oh, yeah.
All right, so the first one, is the selectman's salary. They have put in for a 3% increase in that salary. So Social Security and Medicare, increases are based on that. Questions, comments?
A 3% increase in the salary, or a 3% increase in the cost?
3% cost of living increase. They put a 3% increase, just like all the other departments, for their salary, which works out to $819.
That was my suggestion, because in the time that I was here, there was no increases, and I thought that in 3 years, you should have something increased so that you're not stuck trying to play catch-up later. I don't plan to stay, so passing that on. 3 years is long enough, I think, but
It's been 3 years since there's been an increase.
I think
Not
while I was here.
6.
I think it's been more like 7 or 8.
Okay.
Because I don't ever remember getting one, so, and I don't care either way.
How do our salaries that we're paying for selectmen compare to other towns of this size? Any idea?
In comparison with Shapley,
9,000.
Shapley's actually 10,000 each this year, so Shapley's a little higher.
Do they have office hours in Chaplin?
They do not.
You guys don't need them.
But we're willing to, sorry, I just took a bite. We found that nobody was coming in. We're not opposed to calling and, scheduling something with somebody that wants to come in, which I have done before on a
Yeah, we all
Tuesday.
have.
We've all done that, which is easier, I think. It's more convenient for the person asking.
Well, otherwise,
To set-
times when I would go down to those meetings, because we were working on policies or something, you never knew who was gonna show up and who was ahead of you, and how long their issue was gonna take, so, it was like days when I needed to get a hold of Jennifer or anybody on the Board of Selectmen, it's like, I wish I could get an appointment. I can't, this is a whole waste of
Which
time, just
we're open to.
walk-in service.
Yeah, and anybody can make an appointment. We
Yeah,
have.
so we don't know about other towns then?
I can tell you that the town of Newfield, I don't know what their salaries are, but I can tell you that they certainly don't have office hours.
And generally, I mean, as a selectman in Chapley, I mean, I can tell you that there's, between the meetings and workshops, and I mean, they're certainly putting in a good amount of time. The problem with walk-in hours is that you want to make sure that unless all three board members are there, that they're not making decisions. It's hard when you get, if we had three selectmen here, let's say every Thursday from 5 to 7, it's almost, they start discussing things, they start making decisions. The selectmen have tried to be transparent, so they put everything in an agenda and they try to put it in a selectmen's meeting. So it's one thing if you have one selectman here to kind of talk to people and, have concerns, but once you put all of them here at the same time, it becomes a quorum, they make decisions, it's not in the public anymore, so it has its downfalls as well, as far as office hours altogether. If you wanted to separate them and have one each day or something, that might be different, but when they were doing that, people just weren't coming in. I mean, they essentially were sitting there on Thursday nights when my office was open from 7 to 8, and I think they can all tell you, I'd introduce them to every customer that would come in. Do you have any concerns with the selectmen? They just kind of sit there and wait, so.
I don't take any exception to the hours that they work. I was just wondering from a salary standpoint.
I think that it's.
How we compare to other.
You're right, you're right in the middle. It's not any higher or lower. I mean, like she said, Chapley's a little higher, Newfield's definitely lower, Lebanon's probably a little higher. So, but I can get you exact numbers if you'd like for the next meeting, next time we get together. All right, the next column is the gym. There's no increase there except a little bit in the electricity. And this is one of those ongoing subjects, if you've been attending the Board of Selectmen's meeting, that we don't know what direction this is going into as far as the rec, as far as our insurance. So for now, we're just flatlining that until we get some more information.
Is that, Jennifer, is that self-sustaining to the
This past
year, no, definitely not.
Working on that.
2 years ago, it was. But, yeah.
So we are working on some policies and procedures in place, which kind of falls into the next piece under office assistance that you're going to hear about, is the tracking and the following up. The selectmen just started going in there at random times, and since they've done that, I mean, we've had a couple of people already come in and pay. One of them hadn't paid since 2017. But unless we either pop in and say, hi, are you on my list? Or, change the locks every year when it's time to renew, it's very difficult unless you want to pay for the alarm system where we could turn people's codes off. It's hard to maintain. It's a time effective.
These costs here are direct costs.
Correct.
What about the indirect costs, the maintenance of the building, the electricity? I imagine it's got toilet facilities like plumbing and...
So the heating, fuel, and the electricity are there. As far as the small amount of toiletries and stuff they need, trash bags, that just comes out of our municipal management. They come over here and get what they need. Our cleaning staff also goes over there and cleans. We have some volunteers there that do it as well. But if there was a problem with the toilet or something, that would just fall under our building maintenance over here.
So that would be, there'd be indirect costs.
Yes, we cover them.
Gym, the people who go to the gym and use it, they donate toilet paper, wipes for the machines, a lot of the,
I believe somebody over there also collects the returnables.
Yeah.
They collect returnables and use that money to buy toilet paper and stuff like that.
paper towels, yeah.
Sanitizing wipes.
Which, and I'm telling them they can get them over here, I'm not sure why. I mean, there's
Maybe
other
they
things
just
they could.
like to
but-
feel like
Yeah,
they're-
no.
And how is it progressing with the underwriter at MMA?
So our underwriter is actually coming out next week. He's decided that a couple of things have come up and he wants to take another look at them, and the gym will be part of our focus. We are hoping, depending on what happens with this office assistant line, that we're going to be able to fix some of the immediate issues. There's just some things that we can't do, but with some more staffing, we may be able to address half of them and keep it keep it open.
One of the major things, first of all, was people going in there that they're not trained on the equipment before they go in. There's no supervision because there's not a staff member over there, at the gym 24/7, or, it's just kind of a pop-in thing. There's concern with loss and liability, and, they would like to see surveillance cameras, and, there's a lot of things that they would like to see changed there.
Well, I'm just wondering, how does this add value to the citizens.
And it may not. I mean, the conversation.
That running into these things.
The equipment originally came from a grant from the fire and rescue, from the fire department rescue. And, this board is just starting to have conversations about maybe it's a good time to give the equipment back to them over there and, let them use it for the purpose. And, maybe it's not worth the cost of what we may have to put into it to meet some of these requirements. So we're not quite there yet because I need more information from the underwriters, but it is top of their list. So next week or two.
How much is the membership and how much do you collect every year?
So anybody that's on fire rescue is free. They don't pay anything. Town employees, or if you sit on a committee or a board, or if you're a school committee, anybody who's a school employee, it's $10 a month. And anybody else, it's $20 a month. So it works out to $120 a year or $240 a year. We also have what we call a snowbird section. So I think it's for about $60. We allow them to come in for, a couple of months out of the year while they're here visiting in the summer. Revenues last year?
Revenues last year ran right about $5,000. This time of the year, we're 3/4 of the way through the year. We should see a minimum of half that, and we haven't seen a minimum of half that, so,
There are, and that's one of the other problems. We spent, obviously, the keys that we have made are do not duplicate, and, without naming names of stores, if you get somebody at a particular store that, doesn't really care, they'll duplicate those keys. So people are passing them out.
I think it might be time to change the locks and start fresh and get that procedure in place.
Yeah, and then we're hoping to put that in place for July 1, because everybody's term expires June 30th, regardless of when you sign up, we prorate. So everybody expires June 30th. So we may, what I may propose to the board is, closing it the first 2 weeks of July, so that we can get everything together. 4th of July week, in my office is not a time to be dealing with the gym. So if we're gonna put some of those things in place, we may close it for a week to get everybody straightened out, new locks, but we need a long-term plan. Are we gonna do that every year? Are we gonna put cameras in? So again, once I meet with May Municipal next week, I should have more information.
Like she just said, that the revenues are way down this year, so maybe we should progress.
It's because people have a key and there's no need for them to come in and pay.
Right, and there's no way we're not.
What?
It's because people have a key, so let's just say somebody will come in and they'll say, I wanna sign up for 3 months. So we charge a deposit on the key, and the idea is that when they return the key, they get the $4 back. Some people don't return the key, they lose it, they dispose of it, or they just keep it, or they give it away, so they're continuing to use it, and until there's some follow-through as far as checking in, that's what it is, in the middle of a $7 million budget, stopping and going over every day to make sure that, every single person has a paid membership.
Put a padlock on it and say, Steve Municipal Office for key.
Well, I'm not sure you're understanding the system, but previously, before there were keys, there was an electronic swiping card that she could shut on and off if you didn't pay. It cost too much to maintain that keypad
The system itself was, $4,000 or $5,000. And every time somebody would sign up for the gym, we would go in and we'd activate their card, and then we would deactivate them. And that was easier, but if it's not paying for itself now with a cheap key system, it definitely wasn't paying for itself with the alarm
It becomes the honor system. Once your membership runs up, you're supposed to come in and pay, and people weren't doing that. They're not.
But we have some ideas, and we're gonna move forward with it. We're gonna, they're either gonna make a decision on the building as a whole, or we'll put some policies in place that meet the insurance company's requirements and make sure that it's being used properly. Okay, so the next line is the office assistant line, Social Security, Medicare, and miscellaneous. So this office assistant line covers 2 people. We have one office assistant that is the deputy town clerk and also works in the treasurer's office. So currently, that employee gets about 36 hours a week, because for me, she works anytime the town hall is open, except for Thursday night, so Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And then on Mondays and Thursdays, she works for the treasurer. So she is cross-trained in both of those positions. Hers is a 3% increase on salary, and she's only getting a couple extra hours. We had to budget in for Saturdays, because Saturdays like this, that I'm here, or town meeting Saturdays, there's no money in the budget to have her work Saturdays. And depending on, what happens with the selectmen's race, there's a good chance that, the meetings may change evenings so that we can do a 7 o'clock, because that's come up a couple of times, which would then force her to shift a schedule and work Thursday evenings that she's not budgeted for either. So I budgeted on her for 3% up to 40 hours. The other assistant, we call Office Assistant B, currently works 20 hours, similar to what you heard Ken saying downstairs with his secretary. This is my support under the town administrator piece. She does just miscellaneous town administrator work that I delegate to her, typing job descriptions, ordering things, just things to help alleviate my workload. The support that the town administrator's office gives to the departments in town has grown, is growing, and continues to grow every day. We do just about everything we can for every department, whether it's ordering the road signs, everything going on with Maine Municipal, the transfer station. I mean, we're doing all that secretarial work for pretty much all the departments in town. So increasing her from 20 hours to 32 hours is the increase you see there. Like Ken talked about revenues that he had in his office, not counting any of the taxes or any of the registration fees or anything like that is earmarked or goes to the state. We're collecting about $501,000 just in agent fees, excise tax, and boat. Okay, so that gives you an idea of how busy that office is up there. So we're running, we've got 3 staff members just like downstairs, and we're running the town clerk, tax collector, register of voters, and the entire town administration off the same numbers. So I personally think that's impressive, and I think that staff works hard. Increasing those hours, like I said, will give us some more support, and it will allow us to do things like incorporate the RSMS system. The Board of Selectmen have been working with the road committee, and we're really looking, we need somebody that can do some data entry on that. So we're looking to add that to this office assistant's job. So each week as the payroll comes in and work is done on certain culverts or bridges or whatever the road project is, after the payroll and after everything's approved, copies essentially will go to her, and she will learn how to enter this, utilize the system, and she'll start entering it each week.
That meeting we had the other night, about the roads, it was said at that meeting that, I think I remember this right, Ed, that the road commissioners would put the data into the laptop, would buy a laptop for each road commissioner, and they would put the information into the laptop, and whether it be the time sheets and whatever work was done, and then you could take the laptop and plug it in, and it automatically download into the server, into the RSMS program, for example. So you it wouldn't be labor intensive. The computers would talk to each other, and you just plug them in and they'd do whatever.
Right, and there has been some talk about something similar to that. I guess what I would point out is, first of all, the road commissioners on an hourly rate are $30 an hour. My office assistants are gonna make $14, $15, $16 an hour to do that same data entry. And certainly, I would never consider getting behind the wheel of one of those big trucks, as I am sure that they would much rather see, and it would be a safer, stronger secretarial support for us to do it in-house. The other piece is that we can't take outside computers. I mean, we could buy them town computers if you wanted.
Computers.
Well, right, but we're very, like the computer that we have the RSMS on, I mean, it stays, at the town hall, the road committee has taken it for what they need. But if it's going to download into our server, I mean, it has to be a town employee doing the information and being watched. Do you know what I mean? So we don't want an outside computer connecting to the town server.
No, I appreciate it. It'd be a town computer, and it'd be connected by a town employee.
Right, which, I mean, and that's something that the board can talk about, who they want to do it. And I'm only basing it on the last 2 road commissioners and how much secretarial support we've done for them. Certainly, the help that we're giving these guys now, I mean, your road posting signs, your Middle Street signs, all of these little things that people ask the road commissioners for, my office is doing that.
Right, but...
so I'm just saying, so I don't see them entering into that system.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I mean,
Well, David said
And you-
the other night at that meeting that he has an iPad, a memo pad, and like he says, he just sits in his truck when something's done and he just puts it in, and then it's downloaded to the mainframe.
That's for his regular job.
right, but he doesn't,
I know, but I'm saying the process would be the same. You'd have a laptop and
I think it's a great idea.
do the job, and then they'd come to you, and, well, there was thoughts of putting it on a thumb drive and doing it, and you guys.
So each week, they would do all of their work on a thumb drive and bring it to us, and we would download that.
They're doing on a tablet or a computer.
In some ways, they're doing it anyway on paper.
Right.
They might as well,
So big,
Dick will do it, and, yeah.
Well, I mean, I can go over, I mean, if that staff doesn't, if our staff doesn't have to pick up the RSMS, I mean, that's certainly fine with us, like, you know, that's just one of the many things that we need the extra hours for, but I would you know, if they can do that, great.
No, I'm not talking, I mean, I'm not saying you don't need the help.
Oh, no, I know.
I'm saying this would simplify it.
Yeah.
And P.D. Smith does the same thing, with the road stuff down there.
Right, but I think we have to be careful on the types of programs and what we're talking about, because this RSMS is it's basically an Access Excel spreadsheet program. Database, right, that is not gonna be formable with an iPad, number one, if it's an Apple
I
product.
just say that,
Well, I know, I'm just saying, it's gonna be a big difference between Sanford and Acton and what they're interacting, but I, you know,
Well, they could use tablets, they don't have to have an iPad.
I don't know what they're doing.
I just want to say that, that if you look at, I'm going to look at this from like the construction business, there's a big difference between a town of a $7 million budget and the city of Sanford, just like a small construction company can't afford to have their, you know, their foremans out in the field reporting payroll with a tablet. You know, they have to email it in, whereas a bigger company, ideally, yes, they can sit there on site and click on their iPad and it, you know, at the end of the day, it comes to me. You know, I've worked on both ends of it, you know, where we've had the guys in the field with the tablets and the.
So are you saying that RSMS does payroll as well?
No, what I'm saying is.
No, I was asking that,
it's
sorry.
not feasible, in my opinion, for our road, it would be a very expensive endeavor to put tablets or laptop. I know Dave does it in Sanford, but Sanford's a huge city compared to us, money-wise. Yeah, I just don't think it's
Yeah, and
financially.
all of those
expensive.
iPads that they have in Sanford
It's
are.
more than just a tablet.
They're
You have to have.
equipped with. Internet access, which is
Another charge.
an expense.
Right, I think I think it's something we could certainly look into, but I'm not sure that the RSMS system, I mean, that's collecting data and it's putting out reports based on history that the road committee and everybody else has gathered. I'm not sure that does any type of.
It's not just a tablet, though. It's
No,
the
I know.
software that has to be run.
That's what I'm saying, and I
on
don't think the
tablet,
RSMS
you know?
is that
And if
system.
it's not RSMS, if it's just, you know, keeping up with whatever program they're using, you know, all of it costs money regularly. The hardware is the small piece.
Right.
It's the software and things.
I'm wondering if we could have this RSMS system conversation another time and continue with the budget. Sure. I'm sorry.
Good idea.
Okay, so anyway, so one of the things that I was factoring on was the additional duties, because as I understood it, it was going to be secretarial staff somewhere in the town administration office to start entering all of the work, because at this point, as I thought, they wanted to go back at least to July 1st. We want to go back to the fiscal year, try to get, you know, this information in the system. So, but if we can come up with another way to let the guys do it, I'm certainly okay with that as well. But that was one of the pieces I was figuring in. Additionally.
Does person work full or part-time?
So just like the secretary downstairs, they're both at 20 hours right now. The proposal is that they both go to 32. What we were going to talk about when we get to benefits is that we have spoken to our legal team, and we have learned that we can make a change to our personnel policy, making it effective a particular date that we're looking to change the amount of hours before you get benefits to 35, unless they are grandfathered. So all of your transfer station guys, everybody that's currently getting health insurance will continue to get them. When these two employees who do not want health insurance, by the way, go from 20 to 32 hours, we will not have to budget it in, because we're going to change the policy to increase the amount of hours. That's the only way that we could get around it. Neither employee want them. They want the extra hours, but not the health insurance. We looked into buyouts, because right now you spend, what are we figuring, 15,000, 20,000 for, how much is health insurance?
Oh, gosh, 16.
So 16,000, we had talked about, Susan, having maybe a buyout for employees if you don't take the insurance, here's $5,000, because it's still an $11,000 savings. And that's not something that we can do because of when open enrollment is, and if the employee has a life-changing event, by law, you have to offer it to them. So the only way that we could save the money on the health insurance and not budget for it is by changing the personnel policy. So they would go to 32, both assistants, but no added health insurance benefits.
One benefit to having that run through the selectman's office.
Yes.
Versus the road commissioners is, the exact situation we just went through when the road commissioner quit. We don't know what equipment they have. We don't know what we don't know what their plans were for the roads. We don't have any of that, and in running it through the town hall, those records will be there.
Right. And, in regards to that clerical piece, we are, we're working on job descriptions, we are working on, the Warren and Finance ordinance needs to be updated, the road committee ordinance needs to be updated. The plate is running over. Those extra 10 hours, would offer a lot of support. And like I said, the revenue numbers certainly more than support it, in regards to those departments. So that's the office assistant line. Any other questions on that? The next section is the miscellaneous boards. This was Warren and Finance. It's $200. We've zeroed it out completely because the way that the policy works now, if Warren and Finance is having a meeting, such as Monday night, where they're going to take an official vote for a warrant that the Board of Selectmen are going to sign, the town administrator attends those meetings as part of her salary and takes the minutes. So Monday night, for example, you'll see me there taking all the motions. That gives me a chance Tuesday morning to get them typed in and ready for the Selectmen's meeting Tuesday night. So we used to have a small stipend in there because we would have to pay, this goes back to Lorraine's days, we'd pay an hourly employee to go and take the minutes, but now it's just added Joy's salary and including that, so we don't need any money in there. All right, Michelle's going to take over on the next section.
So municipal management is basically just everything needed to run every department. The only department that's not included on unemployment, workers' comp, and health insurance in this line here is the fire department. Let's face it, they're the biggest expense that we have employee-wise as far as wages and expenses. So they are separated out into their respectful department. So we have unemployment contribution. We have a decrease of $3,000. The rates have gone down. We've had a lot less people filing for unemployment. Typically, there was a pretty good turnaround on unemployment in the wintertime. The past couple of winters, the previous road commissioners were able to utilize the same staff and keep them busy at least part of the time through the winter. Workers' comp insurance is based on salaries, so that's gone up a little bit. Health insurance, we don't know what it's gonna do. Our renewal is in September. It could be.
The health insurance figure is not a firm figure.
Well, it's a firm figure. It's what's gonna be put forward. However.
But it's not something that you actually have information.
Right.
This is what it's gonna cost.
Right. We have estimates of 10 to 12 to 20%, and we kind of fall in within there. And if it's higher than that, then that'll be a decrease of benefits for the employee. They'll have to contribute more.
Right.
So that's just the way it happens.
So that's no added people, right? Well, we have one employee that's changing, no added staff. Right?
No, so this is just basically an increase on the percentage. This year we did, because of the budget, we did increase what we contribute to their deductible. So,
You
the
contribute
time
to
will
their
tell.
deductible? Oh, you mean like what they pay for the weekly?
We have a high deductible plan.
5,000.
Yeah,
Mine's
6,000.
Yeah, 6,000.
And the town contributes a portion of that to a health savings plan
Oh,
for them.
How much?
can I work for you? Because I have a $6,000 one too.
It's, 85%.
Oh,
Wow.
What's that now?
85%?
Of the 6,000?
Yes.
Yeah, in the private, nobody does that.
nobody does
Right, and
that
that, I
anymore.
think the comparison is they often compare it with the school. I mean, you guys
Yeah.
all sat through the school, what is the school, what were the school,
They
what were
didn't
the?
all sit through the school.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
What were the, what does the school pay for benefits, for health insurance?
Their figures were not available, so they have, the same thing that, Michelle is.
Yeah.
Right, but as far as- but as far as the-
what the school's plan is a much better plan. We have a high deductible because it's kind of a crappy plan, but it's cheaper.
Well, of course it is, because, like you say, their plan is about as good as it gets.
Right.
$250.
But,
Their contribution rates,
teach it,
I looked at the last contract, and I want to say it was very comparable to the town at 85%.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The town's paying,
Buku.
85%, and you have to pay 15%. So, this is on a full family, of course. So how does that work out to what we're doing? Because if we're paying 85%, and then we're giving then we're paying, unless I'm misunderstanding, so much of the deductible. So what's the actual percentage that we're paying, the town's paying? Isn't it closer to 95%?
Yeah.
Well,
Or 90?
so if you're,
Yeah.
if you're comparing, so let's just say the school is 85.15
Yeah.
with a $250 deductible. I don't know what their deductible is. I mean, that's why I was wondering, I know you guys just went through the
It used to-
deliberations. Does anybody know what their deductible, did we ask any of these
50.
questions?
$250.
$250 deductible, okay, so ours, we're paying 85.15 as well, but we have a $6,000 deductible.
Yeah. And our plan is about $1,200 cheaper than theirs per person.
So, I mean, you could not pay, not,
85%.
Is that including what you pay towards the deductible? That's
Right.
$100 per person cheaper.
so, I mean, could the town, so we've always had the conversations, can the town, stop doing the deductible and maybe get us on that plan? Because, I mean, that plan cover,
They won't let you.
well, no, I know the school won't let us, that's what I'm saying, there's nothing else comparable
This
out
is
there.
through the school thing, right?
Right. I mean, every year when we look at these insurance plans.
We go out every year. Every year we go out for
And we
insurance.
always take the lowest, I mean, there's no eye care, there's no dental, there's no, I mean, it is the most basic plan. If we could, you know what I mean? As far as the town piece, the town
I
side.
understand that, and I'm not disagreeing with what you do, but what I'm trying to figure out is what's the actual percentage.
If you count in the HSA, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, what in actuality is the taxpayers paying for a percentage of what the total
The
cost
cost
is?
is, yeah.
If you
I
take the
guess that's
HSA into consideration,
Yeah.
everything, is it still 85.15 or is it
Probably 90, it's probably 90/10,
90/10?
yeah.
Boy, I tell you, that was a long ways for me to get my question out there the way I wanted an answer.
No, I was just, I mean, we would love to look at changes in the health insurance, and I just, I thought that we
Yeah,
just had school meetings.
We've
that-
inquired as to whether we could get on with county. County is in the Maine Municipal Health Trust, and the town of Shapley has it. It's a great plan. It's expensive.
More expensive than this one.
Yes, even if we paid 100%, it's more expensive. Even if we, and we have to think about what's affordable for the employee, because if you offer insurance, it has to be, at least the single rate has to be affordable for the employee's annual salary. And I'd love to be on the Maine Municipal Health Trust.
I think that we've seen this trend in the corporate world too, that every year the insurance just gets so much more. I remember 10 years ago, I had a $500 deductible and the payroll deduction was half what it is now.
Yeah.
Now, you're paying $130 a week out of your paycheck, plus have a $6,000 deductible.
Right.
It's just, this trend has been.
Well, right, and it would be different if these plans got better as they went up, but you know what I mean?
Just get worse.
For a year, and and I hate to compare to the school or to compare to Shapley, but it's definitely, one of the worst plans around.
Yeah.
I mean, there's.
There's no cooperative
Well, that's what she was,
Well, there is one through Maine Municipal, but we can't afford it. I mean, if we're, if we're going, whoa, on these numbers now, we couldn't afford Chapley's health
The
insurance.
school meeting the other night, they're joining what was it, some kind of cooperative, and they're gonna get 6 new buses.
That was transportation.
But it's a regional cooperative that started with Biddeford, Dayton, to be the school department here. And they're gonna be new buses, and they say the contract is $10,000 cheaper, and they're getting new buses.
but there is no cooperative you could join for the health insurance.
Well, I don't know what this
Other
is.
than.
No, I'm saying, is there? That was a question.
Yeah, other than, and the majority of your municipalities, at least in southern Maine, are joined in with Maine Municipal Health Trust. And they all, they all offer varying rates of contribution. Around here, we're compared with Sanford. They're in the health trust, and I want to say that they're 90% covered for a family plan.
That's a blessing of the union.
Yes.
Now, do the employees pay anything?
10%, she said.
10%.
They take that out of their check every
Checks.
month?
Yeah, yeah.
Every other week.
The only ones that get better deals than that is down in Washington.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Move on.
Moving along, the social security tax and Medicare tax, it's just kind of randomly in here without any wages. We do have, some cleaning that's done and some shoveling that's done through building maintenance. And so, based on history, I'm gonna guess that that's what the tax is gonna cost, for next year. The next line down, main PERS and longevity employee benefits. This is vacation buyouts, of course, our retirement system. There's an increase, there will be 2 employees that will be, eligible for, retirement, joining the retirement plan. Longevity benefits, increase the more time that you're with the town. We do have a couple of people that are becoming eligible this year to be able to buy out a week's vacation that weren't previously eligible.
Now, is the eligibility for that program the same as the health insurance, that it's gonna be changed to, other than the grandfathered people, to 35 hours?
No, those 2 employees, that's part of the increase. That's, those 2 employees that if it passed, go from 20 to 32 hours. We felt like we needed to give them something, so we're giving them the opportunity to buy into that, and they would get vacation and stuff based on it. It's just the health insurance that we cut out because that was such a big part of it.
And the retirement benefits can't be changed at this point. When the town voted to allow those retirement benefits, we set in the warrant article, and that goes with Maine retirement, those are the hours, and those are always gonna be the hours. Looking ahead at some of these items and the things that are up at the legislature to be looked at, there are proposals for everybody, even our per diem employees, to pay their benefits. We have per diem employees, so we don't have to pay benefits.
Right.
But there are bills up there that they're trying to push across that's gonna change, and if that comes down to it, we're gonna be in trouble. We're gonna be in big trouble. So, we'd like to keep the benefits down. There's been, requests this past year for short-term disability, long-term disability, dental. We all know that those are big expenses.
And the board's not moving.
But not knowing where the healthcare is going and not knowing where these bills are going up at the House, we can't even fathom to offer another benefit that we can't fund.
What's the purpose of the longevity employment benefits?
Well, to keep people longer.
So they don't get trained and move on?
No, but what's the What's the benefit?
So the personnel policy says that for every 1 week, for every 1 year you work over so many years, you get a bonus essentially at Christmas time. Like Shapley, for example, will allow you to take salaries and divide them by 53 weeks instead of 52, so the staff gets something at Christmas. The longevity was originally put in, probably because of my office, because we would have so many deputies come in, work 3, 4, 5 years, get trained, and then go to another town. So by putting the longevity in, saying, okay, if you hit 5 years, then you hit 10 years, here's an additional, a bonus.
Yeah, and so part of the longevity benefits is the vacation buyout. I know up until this year, I had a hard time using my vacation. It wasn't a benefit to me if I couldn't use it, because I didn't have the coverage so that I could take a week off. Now that the office assistant that is cross-trained in both offices, I could leave her for a week to do it and have confidence that she can get the basics done. I've been using my vacation, and I'd rather not cash it out. But where the fact was that for so many years, I had 4 weeks vacation, it wasn't a benefit to me because I didn't have the opportunity to take it. And I know the same was with Jennifer and Ken, and it really wasn't a benefit to the employees if you couldn't use it. And so this was the compromise, okay? You might not be able to use this, but if you can cash out, I think it's up to 3 weeks after you've been more than 10 years. And I think after 5 years, you can cash out a week. And after 8 years, you can cash out 2 weeks.
I understand that part. But what I'm really not sure that I know I don't understand is, for lack of better words, is getting a bonus. Is that based on, like, say if I worked here a year, I get a $10 bonus. If I worked here 10 years, I get a $100 bonus.
Let me pull up the personnel policy so I
Yeah,
can read
so
you
it
what
is,
says.
I know 10 years is, it's after 10 years. So after 10 years, it's $100 for every year of employment. So.
Up to, there's a cap.
Up to 20 years.
So somebody like Kenny that's worked here 20 years.
Yes.
He'll be getting a $2,000 bonus.
Right.
Before taxes.
Right, so longevity benefits are
Before
contingent
taxes
on
and
approved
retirement.
budgets at the annual town meeting, and that's it. An employee working 10 or more years may receive a bonus payable on or before December 1st, equal to $100 per continuous employment. So there's a 10-year, 5-year, and an 8-year. So it's incentive to get the employee to stay with the town of Acton.
That was a vote at town meeting.
It was, when it went into the personnel policy, how many years ago?
4, maybe? It
was
wasn't
in-
a vote at town meeting.
It
I mean,
didn't need
it
to
was
be.
incorporated into the budget.
So
at that time.
it's not a municipal ordinance.
No, it's not an
policy.
ordinance, a policy that can be changed
Yep,
anytime.
the selectman can change it
Yeah.
at any time.
Doesn't it say in the personnel policy that you can only carry over 1 year,
1 week.
1 week every year?
Well, you can cash, if you don't use it, we'll use me for an example, if you don't use it, it can carry over 1 week and I can cash in up to 3.
Yeah.
So like Michelle, I mean, we all want to take vacations regardless of what you guys may, regardless of what people may think they see, but it's difficult to stay ahead of these jobs with limited staff and stay on top of your job and not be worrying about, being picked apart at a selectmen's meeting because you haven't done A, B, and C and still wonder how you're going to take all that vacation that you've earned.
And it's better than losing it, which
It's
would be
better
the
than losing it. So if
alternative.
nothing else, the 60 hours I'll turn into at least a buyout of my vacation at the end.
Nothing worse than a use it or lose it policy.
Use it or lose it.
Right.
Well, and that's only going to affect the town, honestly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that would put you in a difficult situation, so. All right, these next ones we should be able to go through pretty quickly, unless you have questions. So the office supplies is staying the same. Postage is going up because of the postage itself going up. Cleaning supplies, that's just a small increase based on our need. Heating fuels, we're in a contract with the company, so that should be pretty accurate as long as we don't have a really bad winter. Employee training, that's one of the things, that's that little one we talked about with the road guys, if they found something they really wanted to do. Dues and memberships is going up from Maine Municipal, that's their number. They warned us well over a year ago that that was going up. Computer repair and maintenance is just in-house computer repairs. Legal expenses, that increase primarily is because we brought code enforcement over now, so it's all gonna be paid out of one account. Audit services, because we went out to bid, we increased that a little bit, knowing that we may be going with a new company and there might be additional work. Drug testing, staying the same. Deed transfers and lien costs are staying, essentially the same. Any questions on that piece? Pretty much in-house, day-to-day operations with no increases. Alarm system, maintenance agreement went up from the company, $100. Contract deputy, that is, an estimate based on contractual negotiations with the county. Town hall electricity and telephone, and town hall building maintenance is staying the same. We've been, good about, that building maintenance account and getting small things done here and there, like if you were at the selectmen's meeting last week, you heard about the upgrades downstairs. Software rental from Trio, this is going up. We also got a year-plus notice that this was going up. They're changing their software altogether to make it more of a web-based program, so we knew that change was coming. They gave us a couple of years' notice. Equipment repairs and maintenance, those are the leases on the 2 photocopiers. Property casualty insurance, or is that a solid number, or are we?
Yeah, that's a solid number.
Okay. And that increase is based on?
Additions that we've had to the policy over the past year
Like
that.
buildings and vehicles?
Buildings and vehicles, that we have added to the policy that they have not charged us for. They don't charge us until the policy renews, so.
The printing of the town reports, staying the same, equipment, computer hardware staying the same. That's, our way of, kind of replacing a computer here and there without one big expense. So every year we've been able to flatline those, but make sure everybody's kept up to what they need to be. Sand and salt shed loan, we're in that until 2025, so those are the payments there. You can see that the window loan and the fire truck loan have been paid off. Goat Hill, we've got 2 more years on. That shows the amount that we'll pay into them this year. Tax abatements, we're leaving at 4,000. Write-offs, those are the penny short tax payments here and there. And then miscellaneous expenses, which can be anything under municipal management. So we've flatlined all of those. Any questions on that piece?
The only question I have is the cable had talked about getting into a better internet package. Are you going to be utilizing that too?
So we've been talking about that. So for the most part, so we get free internet through Atlantic Broadband. We, with what he just installed, we want to make sure that his up and down numbers are enough for his production before we determine if we're going to jump into it.
We just switched to cloud-based, and we had to upgrade our internet. It was horrific at the standard cable internet rate. It was just so boggy and.
Yeah, we've definitely had some problems the last week or so with Atlantic Broadband, so we may try to jump into that, but I hate to say, I kind of like what we're using too, only because it gives me an idea of what's going on in the whole town. If they put my office on a special fiber that is above and beyond everybody around here, I don't know if, somebody's having a problem down the street, because I'm not, so at least when I know the internet's down in my office, it gives me a chance to call on behalf of the town. Does that kind of make sense? But we are looking at it.
It's the same wire. If you go from 100 megabits to 150 megabits, it's the same wire. They just take the throttle off, so how much the data rate.
They said it was a whole different fiber cable that they'd be running in, and they explained to us that it wouldn't be different, and that we'd have our own business contact.
Yeah.
So there's a new internet. You're right, that the internet that we've had available so far was off the same cable, but there's been a new one that's been slowly working its way up into New England that is a different fiber cable than what we currently have, but it's not available most places.
The cable's not gonna change it. It's just gonna be better fiber optics to carry more data.
Yeah, no, we're definitely interested in tapping into the APAT if we can, but we want to make sure we don't take away from him and his productions first. Okay, so the next one is, falls under me under elections. Our election lines haven't had increases in many, many moons, not because it's over, it's just because we work well within it. I do have increases based on minimum wage for all of my election staff, but, knock on wood, based on the June and November elections and a couple of specials, we've been able to flatline that for many years now. Same with the registrar of voters, that's required by law to be a separate position. That one also hasn't seen an increase. So that one stays flatlined. Michelle's gonna go over her finance budget, but before she does, I wanna make sure that we all take a minute to give kudos to Michelle. She recently became certified by the state of Maine as a certified treasurer. It is a big deal. It took a lot of class, a lot of training, a lot of work and effort. I personally, and I'm dealing with this as from my side on Shapley, unfortunately not in time, but she is underpaid as a certified treasurer. And I'm just gonna put this out there that the town of Wakefield is looking for a treasurer right now that they're paying $102,000 for. She does a phenomenal job, and if anybody thinks these budget numbers are high, I encourage you to look around because she is underpaid for the job she does for this town. So.
Thank you. Moving along to my budget, there's a 3% increase in salary, which really is, it's kind of a 1.5%. I did not take an increase last year. So that my salary has been the same for 2 years. With that 3% increase comes some increase in the taxes, the town share of taxes. I have a $50 increase in my training line. That's basically because a majority of the classes, they're going up in price by $10. To maintain my certification every 5 years, I have to have 60 credit hours. So I have to start thinking of them at a yearly interval. My training classes are paid in conjunction with the town of Shapley. They pay half if it's related specifically to the treasurer's department, because my position over here is much different than Shapley. Shapley is an elected position, and so it's the work required under state statute over there. Or over here, I've picked up a lot of the HR with the insurance, health insurance, workers' comp insurance, property and casualty insurance, all the claims that go with that. And of course, over there, the treasurer certainly isn't preparing budget books or anything like that. So the position is very different. I know in years past at town meetings, it's been asked, why is it so much more, which it's really not so much more over here than it is in Shapley. It's maybe a $12,000 difference, but it is because of the time that has to be put in here to do these things. I'm averaging about 30 hours a week over here. Over there, I'm about 15 hours a week. So there's a big difference in the positions there.
Good. All right. So we're gonna move on to the next, if you turn the next page over, it should say Town Administrator at the top. Can you just take one of those? I know we're running a little behind, so I will make my presentation short. Can you give one to the ladies over there? Is everybody at Town Administrator?
No.
So flip the page. It should be, the next one start, 102, 501.
Oh, it's all out of order.
Everybody there? No.
It's gonna be the last page, Roland.
Find it?
I had this.
Are you good, Arnold?
Is that it? No.
That's it.
Went down.
Okay, so town administrator, remember this is the town administrator, town clerk, and tax collector. It's all three positions combined, and that's why you have a handout that, to go along with.
And deputy treasurer.
And deputy treasurer. Oh, forgot about that one. Like Michelle, I did not take an increase last year, so this 3% increase is from the selectman's office telling us to put in for the 3% increase. What I gave you, a very quick handout for you to just kind of take home and ponder, because the conversation comes up every year is why do we have one person doing the town clerk, tax collector, and the town administrator? Well, because you're in a small town, and essentially each position runs about 20, 25 hours a week. Why not combine them and save the town an excessive amount of money? So if you look at, take Shapley, for example, you've got a town administrator over there, one position, and then you have a town clerk, tax collector. And what I've given you is the 3 or 4 most surrounding towns with the same populations and showing you what they're paying for those 2 positions. So you are saving, not counting benefits, a very large amount of money by making it one position. And I would like to think that I handle the pressure well and I'm able to do the jobs. So the increase is 3% there. The only other increase on my line is tax billing. I don't have any control control over the postage/printing, so that is the only increase. Any questions?
I get just one quick question on the handout. We got 104,000 for Shapley, 78,000 for Lebanon, and 114 for Alfred for all those positions. If I flip this over, am I reading that right, that Acton we're paying 74?
Yes, for the FY19, yes. So if you
Yeah.
look at the form, yes.
So we're comparing 74,000, so we're the lowest out of all three of those?
All four towns.
Yeah, all four towns.
That's correct. And that's all before benefits.
Want to make sure we point that out, because, I mean, the work Jennifer does, as far as I'm concerned, is better than any of these people in this other town can do. So, that's something we got to keep in mind for a year or two down the road. That number needs to change.
So we're doing social security, Jan, you don't belong to Main State Retirement.
I do, that's in the first line. Just like all the other departments, none of their benefits are in their individual lines. They were all under municipal management that we went over in the beginning. So all the other staff members as well, outside departments are in there.
So even though we're part of the retirement, we're still required to contribute to Social Security because we were in an agreement with Social Security many years ago, I want to say back in the 70s or 80s. Without looking at a piece of paper, I want to say it's like a 119 plan with Social Security. So even though we offer retirement benefits because we joined into that Social Security plan at that time, we're still required forever to contribute to Social Security until it goes away. Yes.
My income away.
Any other questions on the combined position? It's been 3 or 4 years now, but every year at town meeting, it always comes up, so I just want to give you a chance now if you have any.
Is the school under a different thing? Because they pay social security and Main State Retirement. But if you started working there after 1989 maybe, then you couldn't be part of Main State Retirement unless you were, if you were support staff. So you had to go on social security. It just blows my mind that you gotta pay both.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me. That means when you get Rollins' age, you'll be able to collect from both.
Yes, however, the amount that we collect from Social Security is going to be reduced by the amount of income that we're making from our pensions.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So.
No double dipping.
Right.
Unless it's in your wallet.
And then we'll be taxed on
Then
it.
they can double.
And then we'll get taxed on it.
And then you pay tax again.
Right.
No other questions on, I have all these papers. Nobody wants to know anything about what I do? Okay, sorry. All right, next is the assessing line. There is a $3,000 increase there. That's from O'Donnell's and Associates, and you will find in your supporting paperwork that I'm sure you're all gonna read. It's the first increase for them in 8 years. 8 years we've had O'Donnell's and Associates doing all of our field work and all of our assessing. This is the first increase in 8 years, and I assure you they are more than worth it. They're a phenomenal company. All right, land use, we already went through. Health and welfare, the health officer stipend, the board made a recommendation to increase from 100 to 240. That's a flat stipend whether we use the individual once or 5 times.
Is that still Betsy Pace?
No.
Who is it? Louise Horn?
No.
Oh, by the way, her
Erickson.
birthday's today.
Vicki Erickson.
Vicki Erickson is our health officer.
Birthday to Louise.
And what does that mean?
It means that if we have any cases of where we get complaints that someone's living in an unfit home, or someone's living in a house that needs to be condemned, or even if the health officer plays a big part in the EMA, the whole management plan of the town and the school, it's somebody that has the medical background that by statute has a lot of authority. So if code enforcement was going to condemn a house, or if we had a foreclosure, she always has to be brought in. You don't hear about this much because we don't bring it to the forefront a whole lot, but it's her job to use that medical background to make decisions that are required by law.
Okay.
So.
How often does this happen?
I mean, we probably use her just once or twice a year, depending on what's going on, but
So if you only use them once or twice a year, now she's gonna get $120?
Well, the reason is that she has to maintain certain qualifications to stay our health officer, and I should have brought the statute, I can present it to you on Monday. It's not just any person off the street, they have to have certain medical backgrounds, so the town felt like it was time for an increase in time to contribute towards those additional trainings that the state's requiring.
And it's state mandated.
Right, and even if we only used her once, if she's required to take all these classes, extra classes, there's gotta be some sort of incentive for her to still be our officer.
So is she also a resource if you have an outbreak of mumps or something?
Yeah, so that's where the EMA piece came in. If we had a town-wide disaster, she plays a big part in that. So there's required training as well that she has to do with emergency management. Okay, Elise, I think, you good? So Elise has to step out. We're gonna try to wrap this up. I think the big thing that we have to talk about is the dams. So everything on that page is done, roads are done.
So we need, public safety?
Public safety. Starting with streetlights? I'm sorry. What? So you're looking for 104,505. The first thing on there, it should say streetlights.
Oh, that's the fire department.
Streetlights.
Streetlights.
Streetlights, animal control.
Yep, streetlights, animal control.
And emergency management.
I got my stuff all mixed up in.
That's what it looks like right there.
Does anybody know how many streetlights we have in town?
Is it 9?
9, 1? Anybody else? How many?
14.
Michelle?
I think Dennis is right.
Yeah. I think he's right too. I was gonna say 10. Somewhere around there. So that's the electricity.
This is something we always joke about the week
town
before
meeting.
town meeting, is that you gotta, everybody figure out how many streetlights we have, because they're gonna ask that at town meeting.
Where are they?
There used to be, there used to be
One right
another
here.
one. And, after, the ice storm there, they never replaced it.
The light or the bulb? The bulb
whole
or?
thing.
Okay, can't help you with that.
And it was honestly, I hate to even say this, it was on the flat ground road.
Well, let's look into it next week.
I don't.
No, that's okay.
No, it's fine. No, I
Want the
have
light?
it.
I don't
No,
need it.
I'm just saying, but that's where it was.
Hopefully the electricity's cut off and we're not being billed for it.
I don't like light.
The next one is animal control. You ladies all set? You with us on animal control? Remember, we had a special town meeting several months back, and we increased the animal control. So this number that you see here is just for a full year now. There's no additional increase to animal control. There was no rate at all, no 3%, because we did that at the special town meeting. This number just more truly reflects a solid year. And then miscellaneous equipment, we had to increase that number because things are still being passed down from Frank Shippey's days as animal control officer, so they've gone from, Frank to, my husband, to, Robin, to Wayne, and some of the things are just getting used up. So, the animal control officer we have now, I think, is gonna stay in the position for a little while, which is, excellent, but we need to get him some items. Any questions on animal control?
Can we get an animal control report in the town meeting, the town annual report? There hasn't been one in there since 2014.
Well, we haven't had a consistent animal control officer throughout the whole year, that's the problem. So
it won't be in the one that's at print now, but I can certainly do it for next year.
Because when you looked at this, I went to look to see how many runs and everything they
Yeah.
do, and
And he is on the selectmen's, no, it's a good point, it's a good information to have. He is also on the agenda for next Tuesday to give those reports, so, but we'll start adding it in.
thank you.
Communication, Michelle, dispatch.
dispatch services is a contract with the city of Sanford Communications. Just a little bit of an increase there. The EMA repeater, which is, Southern Maine Communications, we pay $125 a month for. That's staying the same. The 14 town group, we pay for a series of repeaters all over the area. Ed, is there what, 9?
There's 3 of them.
There's 3 of them. And there's 14 towns that contribute for their maintenance, electricity and all of that. That's just a $100 increase, since last year. Blueberry Tower lease, we're in a 10-year lease, with the property up on Blueberry Hill.
Is that cost of that shared by the other towns? No?
They contribute $1,200 to the 4,800 that we spend.
So the other 14 towns, oh, that's interesting.
And that, I think that was kind of they gave it to us, we entered into the lease agreement without, their consent. It was more for the benefit, we saw the benefits townwide because it not only, it benefited our roads department, our fire department, and the idea is to find an alternative location where we wouldn't have to pay a lease. We had the tower there for many, many years without paying a lease. And we're hoping the 14 town group can come up with an alternative to that to save us some money.
I doubt it.
Grow a bigger mountain.
Yeah. The current lease ends 2024. I believe there is some wording in there, though, that we can get out of that lease earlier. Emergency management, the EMA director and stipend was increased.
And this is an increase based on, so we know that Mr. Catanzi has resigned this position. The board took a good look at what it actually entails to be this person and the trainings and classes. We still don't have anybody that is quite interested in it, but it is a huge responsibility, a lot of planning.
That's short money.
Oh, yeah.
Short money.
That's, I mean, you're getting quite a deal there for $1,800, and if anybody's interested in the position, please let me know. Yeah, I wouldn't want that responsibility. All right, so that's all of that piece. Is that the end of it?
And then dams we're really kind of up in the air about right now, waiting for some money numbers to come from Sanford. They have gotten some bids in that were a lot higher than they anticipated for the repairs needed at the Emery Mills Dam. What they thought might be $100,000 is now $400,000, and Town of Acton's responsibility for that is 25%.
It's actually about $200,000. The other price was 400, but they knocked down how they were gonna do.
Oh, they got more.
How they were gonna do the plan.
We have $20,000 in reserve right now. That's all we have.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, most of that dam down there is so self-serving for the town of Sanford that it's absolutely ridiculous anyway. But they don't really care about what happens up here. They never have, and they probably never will. What happens to the people on Square Pond, or Mousom Lake, or Goose Pond, or anything else. With that being said, are we putting any more, are we putting any money aside this year towards the bridges?
Yes.
Yeah, if you look down at the capital, we're gonna go through
Yeah,
that.
so
Not there yet?
No, we're not there yet.
Ronald closed his book, so I thought the dam was...
No, we have a very
Number that
big,
is, you're looking at what number?
so it was at the top of the APAT page.
Okay.
At the bottom, the capital improvements and specials.
Who, what?
One of the last pages.
Just a minute.
Mine are totally out of order.
So we have $50,000 going into a statutory reserve for bridges and culverts this year. We also have $10,000 towards culvert inspections of some specific culverts. And we're not talking little 15-inch road culverts, we're talking about the big ones.
Right.
And we're looking at a capital improvement in the town hall, in the kitchen, for $20,000.
Can you, what are you gonna do in there?
So we are just at the beginning phases of getting some, I'm expected to present you with a complete plan, but, so Jim Fisk has actually come in and done a blueprint for us. The floor, everything is gonna be essentially torn out. The floor, if you go in there now or after the meeting, it's all warped, so all that needs to be pulled up. The wood needs to be replaced and make it level. All the cabinets would come out, the cupboard, it's basically would look similar to how it is. The refrigerator gets moved in there, just as much shelving as we possibly can, but it's really just pulling everything out and putting a new, most cost-effective. I mean, it would be a basic kitchen, but as you probably know, we have a lot of trouble with the water and the sink and, flooding and where it goes, so it's just the whole.
Yeah, the floor is soft in there by the sink.
It's a whole redo, the entire kitchen, and I'll have plans for you for the next meeting.
Oh, God.
What's the matter? So a lot of those are negative. So those are the only three that we went over: Town Hall, Bridges and Culverts Reserve, and the.
Well, I'm just anticipating, some people just absolutely, you haven't created that fund properly. It's not a legal
Okay,
fund.
so are there any other questions,
moving
Ed?
on.
We feel like we're in good
Move
shape.
on.
If it's a statutory.
Yeah, is there anything else? I mean,
The
we've covered.
statutory is the word that he wants to see it,
Yeah.
and that's
I don't care
word
what.
that's gonna be in there.
I don't care what he wants to see.
So Ed, where do we go from here?
Okay,
Well,
I guess, well, it's up,
So Warren and Finance has a meeting on Monday. We need to get through the school budget
Yep.
first. And
Yep.
we've got the board needs to meet and decide if they're comfortable with the tax rate
Did you guys talk
with the
about
selectmen,
donations
that
before I
the
got
treasurer's kind of presented.
Yep.
And determine if they want to make any more cuts before they start putting it into warrant articles for you to start voting on. So let's get through the school. You need to vote on that Monday. We have the special town meeting, April 2nd. We'll get you guys a warrant soon.
Are we skipping over donations?
Those are gonna be on the warrant. So these are all just your department budgets.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but what
so
about the
donations, if you
donations?
want, to meet with any of those,
If there's
Yeah, because I
nobody-
have a lot of
Yeah, you
questions
need
just
to
about
call
the
them in.
services.
you need to call them in separately.
yeah, best answered by
Yeah.
the one that's asking.
Right, so the next Warren and Finance meeting, just bring it up, and, as a committee, you guys will decide if you want me to schedule them, just let me know.
It's very
Okay.
difficult to get them here on a weekend,
Yeah, that's fine.
so.
It's difficult to get me here on a weekend too. But, I just have questions about some of the reports in here, they don't really give a lot of information over what services they provided
And I
in the
have,
last year
I
to
have
Acton.
some that their reports came in a booklet form, so I couldn't
Yeah.
copy it, so I have those originals.
All right.
If you had specific ones,
Yeah,
if you wanna.
can I just email you a list or whatever?
There's only one new one on there, and that's the Cornerstone Visiting Nurses, and they're out of like Frisbee Hospital.
And they had Acton.
They had quite a few Acton
so
people.
Monday, we could tentatively set our meeting schedule.
Monday, I anticipate that we will deal with the school warrant in a timely fashion, and during that time, I intend on setting at least 2 other meetings.
And if there's anybody you want to bring in at that point, Roland will let me know, and I'll get them scheduled for you.
Yeah, and I mean,
that way we
any
can-
department head that you want more information from, feel free in your meetings to call them in for a more lengthy discussion. This was just kind of present you with, what they had, and maybe you can, brainstorm with them on.
Right, well, the board, you'll make a decision as a board, and Roland will contact me. Generally, the selectman will go, or the liaison will go with the department head to the Warren and Finance meetings, how they've done it in the past.
Right, because you needed.
So you can't eat 'em up alive
You need at least
alone.
7 days' notice for your meeting.
Yes.
So, we could potentially set up 3 or 4 meeting dates, and if we don't need them all, then we won't use them all.
Yep, so we're hoping to have a warrant to them by,
I have a draft warrant with all of these numbers ready now.
Okay.
But comes down to what the board wants to put forward.
so we need another good solid week on our end, so we'll start working on it next week.
Michelle, I guess you'd be the one. If this budget passes, what do you anticipate the taxes going up, staying?
Are you not listening, Susan?
13 cents, a minimum of 13 cents.
Minimum of 13, and
If we
maybe
put
as much as
400,000 in,
Which is a large amount to put
it's a
forward.
huge amount. I don't think I think in my 7 years, we've never done.
300,000 is generally what we move
Yeah.
forward from the undesignated fund.
But we've never had the slush fund we got now either.
Well, we've never, and we haven't budgeted,
And I have increased
On the
my
roads.
anticipated revenues by over $100,000 this year too.
big part of the town clerk's office.
Say it's golden.
It's gonna, 13 to 30 cents, depending on how much you move forward,
I'd like to,
unless you start cutting
that's
out
for
of the
another
budget.
discussion.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
And that includes the school budget, not just.
Based on if it
It
passes.
includes the school budget. The school budget is a small increase. It's less than 1%, yeah. They did wonderful.
The
at
school
each-
budget has averaged that a year. It's gone up 8% in 10 years.
And they
8%.
they lost some senior teachers this year, so, I mean, they could bring somebody newer in at a lower rate, so they're able to have some cost savings there. There were teachers that left this year that I had as a child, so.
Yeah.
So they've been there for a while.
So just a quick question, so the board can have it going into next week, and no stories, just a quick number. So as Warren and Finance, what kind of tax rate, cents-wise, are you looking to see the board at? So we said possibly 13, the way it is now, so you thinking 13 is a good number? You thinking you want to see it down to 5 or 8 cents? Just to give them a quick rough number so we have an idea of how much they might need to consider trying to find and cutting.
I don't want any increase.
I don't want any
Okay,
increase.
no increase. 3 people say no increase.
I don't.
The rest of you, what are you comfortable with? Just,
In the past 4 years, the tax rate has gone up 3 times in 4 years.
Yes.
We had 1 decrease.
Right.
I would like to see it stay
the same?
level or go down.
It's not going down.
I just said it.
Okay, what about you guys?
Level or go down.
Obviously, we'd all like it to stay level.
I mean, we got insurance costs that are going up, we got some things we can't
Everything's
control.
going up. Everything's
So,
going up, and we're
if you-
going
and
to
if you-
obligate more money also.
Hoping to get like a,
I,
10 cents.
I mean, with things going up that we can't
That much.
control, which means we gotta cut something that we have now.
And then also though, Ed, your revenues are going up
Yep,
considerable.
right.
We just
So,
need to take a longer look at what are the nice-to-haves that are in these budgets.
Yeah.
Yeah, or what is in there that's nice to have.
Well, and that's the thing, now we need to look at what is nice to have. So
Yeah.
we know that in,
Do it home.
municipal
Yeah.
management, really the only increase that we have in our departments are the 2 secretaries. So, okay, we take the
Yeah.
20 hours, don't let them go to 32, so that's the cut. You've got some fire department things, but other than that, there's really not any fluff. I mean,
Not a
and they're
lot
not
in
even,
there.
that's not even fluff, those are everyday,
Yeah, like I say, the fire department came in looking for 95, it was 95,000 he was looking for.
Right, and you put
To
in-
add to the truck fund, we knocked that to 25.
right.
well, you can-
You have
We could
any
take-
idea, Michelle,
Could we
how
take
much
it to
they'd have to cut
10 or
in flatline?
15? Yeah, it just means that down the
100
road, we're gonna end up having to put a higher number when and if we go to replace the truck.
Here's a good closing statement. So Michelle's gonna tell you how much you would need to cut out of that budget to flatline it. So you've got that packet that we just went over, the top page, and you can see the increases, so.
Well, you'd have to increase it by, I wanna say it's
180?
No, 137,000, because that's the increase that we've gone up,
So-
4.4%.
Find
It's a
137,000.
big increase.
137.
So that's your homework. Find 137,000.
but that's still, I mean, it
I think,
depends on
and
what you
there is some wiggle room with overlay. I think if we cut it by at least 50,000, one place that I can see,
Turn that
can see where it could be cut easily is the gravel processing, because we don't have a plan for that. It's an idea, and while it might save money from driving all the way over to Limerick to get, your materials,
That would take almost 25,000 right off right there.
$25,000.
And I would, we just got a new fire truck last year. I'd cut that 25,000 down to 5,000. There's 50 grand that you just saved.
We've got no place to process gravel.
Right, yeah, the idea, the way,
Except down by the school.
the numbers that the road commissioner had come up with was based on, some numbers that, a person comes in with the crusher and does it for you and then leaves, based on what their rates are down in
And the
Sanford.
trouble is, what you don't know is, that pile is down there, a lot of it's already been run through the crusher. So you don't even.
Right.
You start the whole pile all over again, because they've mixed everything in. I mean, the whole thing is.
Yeah.
So even if you can cut a portion of that
Yeah.
and play with the undesignated fund a little bit, even cutting 50 or 70,000 of that, because some of it, you're right, you can't control, but,
Yep.
I mean, like the hoses, you
Well, I think-
obviously need those.
Yeah, you do.
But that plan, I do have a question, and I didn't think of it while he was here, but the plan for the apparatus for the fire department, that is just like, in the best case scenario,
Right,
this would be
right.
when we would replace them?
And I think that's putting into thought of a department that's probably busier than we are. In your
Yeah.
books, I mean, it will show you how many transportable runs. I don't know how many times they left the building with an ambulance or a fire truck, but just looking at the ambulance side, there's, roughly around 180 transports a year, where in a bigger, more populated area, you're probably gonna get that in a month.
Yeah.
So it's gonna have more wear and tear on the
Yeah.
vehicle.
And plus, there's a big difference when they're going on ambulance calls, or they're just going to get breakfast with the ambulance,
You're right.
Okay.
which is.
Well, with that, I think
With
we're,
that-
we're all set with this meeting. I want to thank everyone that came. This was a exceptionally great meeting.
Yeah.
We all were here for the same thing, is to try to come up with some good numbers for the town. So I want to thank the Warrant and Finance Department, our great staff from the town hall, Jennifer and Michelle.
I feel bad, I didn't get in.
And Brody.
That's, and that's it. Thank you.
And Brody.
Oh, good.